This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mace.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personality of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mace, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download the Superbook Sports app today and use promo code THEGAME. Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow will join us in 1 hour. We'll get his thoughts on the latest around the Titans in the NFL. But allow me to begin today's show by saying, how about them Tigers?
Hey, man, listen. No, excuse me, not man. I'm sorry. I hate when individuals do that and they're talking to a female reporter or doing an interview and they always say, yeah, man, you know. So I'm thinking like, do you see who you're talking to? It's not a man, okay?
It's okay.
Yeah, but shoot, he was hot on the mound, boy.
He was hot.
He was flaming on the mound. LSU was flaming on the mound yesterday. And they got some key hits. They got some errors that worked in their toward their advantage.
Some bad bunts.
Absolutely, some bad bunts. But they took advantage of it. And they closed the deal. And now they move on. But this is a time of year where no matter what sport, I can be watching like women's basketball. And I'm not big into women's basketball. I watch it every so often, especially college. But when it comes to the tournament, yeah, it just gets more exciting.
It's so, because every game means something.
Exactly.
And
absolutely.
the college baseball season is long. It can get boring. You know, Sunday games may mean nothing, but it is fun when it is lose, go home, win in advance. Michelle said when she was walking out earlier when I was walking in, she was like, you going to take your victory lap? I said, no.
We got some more games.
The work is not done, but we will get into all of that. We will get into a little bit of a wrap-up on the Tennessee Vol season. But D-Mase, Willy D, how are we doing today?
I am doing well. I tell you, the big question for LSU, and we'll probably get back to this a little bit later in the show, was how would the pitchers do beyond the superstar ace that they have, Paul Skeens? And, man, what a performance last night to shut out a very good, obviously hot Tennessee team that was coming in playing their best baseball. That's the kind of performance you need in the College World Series. But those guys, if you look, the starting pitcher, I think, had thrown 22 innings the whole year.
His longest stretch throughout the season was against South Carolina in the SEC tournament. He went like 3 1/3 inning. That was his longest outing.
Wow.
And he
went, what, 6, 7 innings?
6 innings last night, almost 100 pitches. Really impressive.
That's what you need. Now, do they have enough to beat Wake Forest twice? We'll see. But
games on Thursday, if we can get there.
Ooh.
There you go.
That's what we're looking for.
Just piece it together.
We're looking for.
Yeah. But it's been. I have found myself. I think I have watched at least a good section, a significant section, of maybe all but one of the games. I find myself kind of the afternoon game when we were on the air yesterday ended up being a little bit of a snoozer, but. These are intense games. It's good baseball. It's something I look forward to every year. College World Series. It's really good stuff.
It is fun stuff. And if college baseball isn't your thing, I get it. That's fine. But Omaha, I think, is going to be intriguing and fun for even, the smallest college baseball fan out there. We will continue to get into Tennessee and their season. Joe Rexrode had an article in The Athletic about Tennessee's season. We'll get into all of that. But I want to start here. Because not only is it College World Series time of year, but we are getting into NHL draft season as well. We are just about a little bit less than a week away from the NHL draft, and it's going to be absolutely bonkers in downtown Nashville, and I'm looking forward to it. And so we know that this time of year is when trade talks really start to heat up. It's when trade talks really start to get serious. Because if you're trading for picks, you need those picks ahead of the draft. So there's going to be a whole lot of deals coming down the pipe here in the next couple of weeks. And one that we've talked about over the last couple of weeks, last couple of months is, do the Predators trade UC Saros? And Greg Wyshynski of ESPN.com writes that he thinks that they possibly will. He says between Saros and Connor Hellebuyck, there could be a big-time goalie carousel with some elite goaltenders on the trade market. Now, before we get into return, before we would get into what that might look for the Nashville Predators, just initial thoughts on Greg Wyshynski thinking that UC Saros could be a legitimate trade block contender.
I don't know what you put legitimate. I would put it at 5% or less that they would trade.
Why?
UC Saros. Just nobody. If somebody is going to put forth what it would take to me to consider it, I just don't think anybody's going to do that. I see the Hellebuck. Hellebuck's not going to be with the Jets.
He's not
in a
happy.
Year. He's somewhat not happy maybe with how the season ended, but it's also he's got a year left in his contract. He sees the Jets are probably going to go through a transition. I don't think he's married to the city of Winnipeg. He's an American player, so he's going to be gone in a year. That's very, very different than UC Saros, who's got two years left. I can see why a team would offer more for Saros than they would for Hellebuck. That's a legit argument for sure. But I think the Predators should, and I think Derek will agree with me, they want to keep UC Saros for a long time. So you better bring it to the table. It's not like, hey, I'll throw in a first-round pick and a second-round pick. You got to have an unbelievable package. And most teams right now just don't have that kind of package. So that's why I put it at 5%.
Well, I mean, it's been, said that David Poyle, who was the Predators GM up until when? A couple weeks ago.
He's still officially
he is still a GM, and pretty soon.
2 more days.
A few more days here. But because the LA Kings was one of the teams that that has been floating out there, but he wanted 2 first-round picks, and it seems like LA wasn't gonna give that up. So if David was asking for 2 first-round picks, what would Barry ask for? I think it would be more now that you know the situation, and if you're not willing to give up more, my thing is, the prospects know, they got enough picks and got enough, potential prospects. I don't want no prospects. Give me guys that can help today, like guys on that level that can help me win the Stanley Cup. I'm not interested in getting guys that may help me 3, 4, 5, 6 years down the line. That does nothing for the team at this particular moment. I need guys that can come in right now, that can, skate up right now and instant points, instant production, because that's what I'm getting out of my goalie. So if I'm giving you my goalie that's getting instant production, that's one of the top 3 or 4 goalies in the league, I don't want prospects back, because what does that do for my team right now? So to me, you better be offering something substantial. If you want to throw in some picks, go ahead, throw them in. But I need a few guys that's going to help me. And I'm not talking about, third-line guys. No, we need some front-line guys, to help me, because I'm giving you a Vezina candidate goalie back in return. So what are you going to give me? If you're not giving me something that's going to help me win a Stanley Cup today, then I don't want to talk.
Two
simple.
first-round picks is not even going to get the phone. I will hang up the phone if you're offering me just 2 first-round
I'll let
picks.
you leave a message, and if you say 2 first-round picks, I'm not returning that message.
Unless it's Chicago's 2023 first-round pick, I
still wouldn't do it. I still don't think I would do it.
Connor Bedard?
Well, Connor Bedard, yeah. I thought you meant 2024. Yeah, I'm assuming that Chicago will not make that phone call.
They're not going to move off that one.
And that's what
They're
I
not
mean.
going to make that phone call.
Unless it is Chicago's first-round pick this year, then I would probably agree with you. Because I don't think this team needs picks.
Well, yeah. Let's put it in perspective, though, for the article. And look, Greg comes on our station a lot, so we can ask him straight up. But I think he would admit that the title of the article is Moves That Would Create Chaos, right? So I don't think these are moves that you're hearing Pierre LeBrun or Elliot Friedman or Darren Drager, some of the ones that are really listening to the talk, the real talk. I think this is a purely speculative, hey, isn't it fun to think about kind of idea. But 2 first-round picks, I put it in football terms. Would you trade Justin Herbert for 2 first-round picks? If you're going to trade a guy like Justin Herbert, a first-round quarterback talent, first-rate quarterback who is a dominant player in his prime, You're not trading him for future picks. Like you could come up empty on the third pick in the draft. If you look through the history of the NHL draft, you could come up with a player that barely makes the NHL or doesn't even make the NHL. There's way too much uncertainty with, quote, first-round picks. Mm-hmm. You got to have certainty if you're going to trade a guy as good as Saros. Now, Askarov, that's a different deal. He hasn't done it yet in the NHL. He's got a very, very high ceiling. That's a conversation that I think you could have. But I am not. You've got to come to the table with something that would blow me away, and I just don't think the Kings or any team that's looking for a goalie will put that kind of package together. That's just my thought of how it's going to go, because I'm not trading UC Saros. I'm with Derek.
I don't know if I necessarily agree 100% with the Justin Herbert comparison. I think because I look at the Chargers and the Predators, they're in two different places. You know, I think the Chargers are trying to win now. The Chargers are trying to be competitive in a very competitive AFC. The Predators, on the other hand, Barry Trotz has said, hey, be patient with us. If the Predators feel like they can be competitive this year, then great. But I don't know if that's the expectation. And I think, too, the comparison between a goaltender and quarterback, I don't think is equal. Because I look at, you know, the teams that were really competing in the Stanley Cup final. Not every single team had an elite goaltender. But in the NFL, I don't think you can win a Super Bowl without an elite quarterback. And, of course, you can pick out examples in the past. Nick Foles won a Super Bowl, and Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. I hear you.
Well,
I know.
they played lights out. They played lights out in the playoffs.
They played at an elite level. But, you know, look at, you know, it's who you feel more confident about winning a Super Bowl. Is it a team with a Patrick Mahomes or a Josh Allen or a Joe Burrow, or a team with a Baker Mayfield? You know, give me Patrick Mahomes all day, every day. And I know that's not a, you know, perfect comparison, because there are non-elite quarterbacks that do win Super Bowls, but for the most part, I would say it's an elite quarterback that makes you feel better about it. But I hear you. I understand. I would need more than 2 first-round picks, because you got to think about, what does this team want to do and what does this team need? This team wants to build for the future. This team's got a whole heck of a lot of picks. I mean, they've got more picks than they probably know what to do with. What they do need is elite forwards, an elite center, more specifically. So, per Greg Wyshynski's article, what could the potential return be for UC Saros if the Predators would have entertained that trade?
The people he lists here.
Well, let's get into that coming up next.
Okay.
Let's get into that coming up next, because I feel like we might be on the same page, Willie. We'll get your thoughts on that as well. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caroline, Willie, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
All the big plays.
And we are done. Vandy 24-21.
All the big stories.
I'm sure Vandy will be a much better team if Clark Lee is the coach.
All in one place. We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3.
What a stop by UC Saros.
Then he wouldn't end up on my team.
Driving his way to victory lane.
I think that's the right strategy.
The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Sometimes you want a sure return on your investment. That's where CDs come into play. At F&M Bank, they've been providing smart choices to customers for over a century, including CDs that are a great way to save. You make a deposit and collect the earnings on your terms. Great rates, predictable results, and backed by the Federal Deposit Insurance Company. That's smart banking. Life is complicated. Banking shouldn't be. So go see them at one of their 20 locations across Middle Tennessee and Southern Kentucky, or online at myfmbank.com. F&M Bank. Banking made easy on purpose. Member FDIC. 3 days of racing, 3 days of music, one huge weekend event. The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is not just a race or a festival, it's an experience. Multiple music stations with Flo Rida, Vince Neil, Chris Jansen, Gavin DeGraw, and more. Fast cars going over 200 miles an hour. And a family fun zone with inflatables, Ferris wheels, kids games, and kid-friendly food trucks. Tickets and premium hospitality are on sale now. Go to MusicCityGP.com for tickets and get ready to experience Nashville's premier speed and sound event.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Want to see our smiling faces? You can watch us on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live.
We are good to go.
Presented by Superbook Sports, voted #1 sportsbook in Vegas. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
How do you kind of envision the timeline of where the team is working through the goalie scenario that you find yourself in?
Well, I think with Askarov, what you saw, he's considered the top prospect in the American Hockey League. He's had a really strong year. He's had a good, strong playoffs, and then he hit a little bump. He's never played this much. He hit a little bump last couple games here. So, I see him starting in Milwaukee again next year. That was the reason they get Lanks signed up, to give him more experience. And then at some point there'll be a switch. And I think it's important that Askey has some times with a guy like Saros or Lanky, who are both really good professional players. And then when we get to with Saros, when he gets to his contract here, where we can extend him, we'll look to do that and see what their ask is, and then we'll have to see where we go from there.
That was Barry Trotz on with Stillman & Company at the beginning of this month, on the day that Andrew Burnett was introduced as the Predators' new head coach. And Barry Trotz said, hey, we are open to anything, even trading the goaltenders. And I think that's how Barry Trotz should approach his new role as GM. It doesn't mean that any of the goaltenders are going to be traded. It just means, hey, anything is on the table. And I think at this point, anything should be on the table.
I'll tell you what shouldn't be on the table is Wyshynski's proposed trade with the Kings.
And I think that we are on the same page with that, Willie, because Greg Wyshynski on ESPN.com has an article with some potential moves that could happen around NHL draft time, off-season dominoes, moves that could create chaos. And the Predators trading UC Saros is on that list of moves that could create chaos. And I think it's kind of an obvious trade partner in the LA Kings, a team that's really good that needs some support with goaltending. But the two potential trades in return, if the Predators were to make a trade with the Kings for UC Saros, the two proposed trades that Greg Wyshynski has in this article, one is a 21-year-old Arthur Kaliev. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yes.
Okay, Arthur Kaliev. I'm not interested. Mm-hmm. In 3 years so far in the league, his best season, 2021-2022, 14 goals, 27 points in 80 games. I need more than that for Saros.
Well, he proposed not only Kaliev, who was a second-round pick, who is only 21. He also would put in there, in the proposed trade, Gabe Vilardi, who is a centerman, and a very talented one, the 11th pick in the draft. I mean, these are good players. Yeah. These are good players. Don't get me wrong. Mm-hmm. But these aren't – I need elite back for elite. We're talking about one of the top 5 goalies in the game, in the world. The only thing that UC Saros hasn't done is have playoff success. And there are circumstances for that. He hasn't been the starting goaltender that long. He was injured in one year where he would have been the starting goaltender in a chance. So he's only played in a couple of series. So that's part of why I come up with Justin Herbert, right? Justin Herbert hasn't played in a lot of postseason games, but he's had dominating regular season kind of numbers. So I'm just looking at, when I make the quarterback comparison, I'm saying a first-rate quarterback in his prime. This is a first-rate NHL goalie in his prime. Arguably, Saros is even better. I think he's top 5. I don't know if Herbert's top 5 in y'all's mind. But
no.
I need stars back. I don't want guys who are developing. if it doesn't start with the Kings, with Quentin Byfield, to me, that's a guy that has such a big ceiling that you'd have to pause and say, now that's worth thinking about, because that's the potential number one play driving center that is very, very coveted by Barry Trotz for sure. But it reminds me of fantasy leagues I've been in where a guy will offer you 2 or 3 spare parts for your best player. And you say, okay, these guys aren't bad players, but are you kidding me? I'm not trading you my best player for these 2 or 3 scraps that you don't need. Like, you got to trade me something that you need.
Exactly.
If I'm going to even consider it.
I'm not trading you Jamar Chase for Josh
Reynolds.
Right.
These are guys that, because the Kings have rebuilt for about 5 years, they've built up a lot of assets. And these guys are 2 good players, but they are clearly players that the Kings are willing to part with to get the superstar that they need. So my answer is, I'll talk to you later.
They're trying to pull a fast one on you.
Yeah.
Trying to pull a fast one on
you. So the puck daddy, Wyshynski, who I love, he is great at what he does. But again, I think he's just spitballing ideas here. This is not something that has really been discussed.
Right, and Greg Wyshynski's not a general manager.
Right,
like, he's not saying that the Predators
So
should make that
I'm just
move.
giving you my thought on that. I'm not – now, Askarov for a combination of some of those guys, that's worth talking about for sure.
Well, it's when you see things like that from a Wyshynski, excuse me, a guy that is really good at his job, that does the due diligence, that talks to a lot of people. When you see something like that, a package like that, you know there's not really anything out there at this particular time. So you're trying to pull, names of individuals that you can package that could possibly get you a trade, with UC Saros, because he know if he goes like above that or, more than one elite player, more than likely that's not going to happen. Or there's not a team that's willing to give an elite player or 2 for a goalie. Right now it's just, okay, what if they did this and this guy put this package together? These are good, okay, guys. Throw in some, some draft picks. Maybe that'll work. Well, that's nothing. That's not anything that's going to happen, truly. Like, truly is going to happen. You just throwing things together and saying, well, this could happen or it might happen. But in reality, the package you threw together, damn well that if you approach the Nashville Predators with that package, they're going to hang up the phone on you. And the only reason you presented that package is because there's no other package to present at this time, for a goalie. Because it's hard, because like y'all said, teams have won without having a elite goalie. They've won the Stanley Cup without having an elite goalie. So that trade is a difficult trade to make, because on one hand, if I'm the guy that wants the goalie, I could say, well, I'm only giving up this because in the past teams have won without a superior goalie, which UC Saros is.
Right.
But on the other hand, the Predators will be looking at it as, you're getting, one of the best goalies in the National Hockey League, so we should be compensated, handsomely for it. But the other team is thinking like, no, not really, because we don't. It's sort of like the running back, in a sense. It's like having a good running back is great, but we don't need a good running back, like a great running back.
That's another interesting comparison. And it's like you say, Caroline, when I throw the quarterback thing, it's not apples to apples, right? These are different sports. But I look at a dominant goalie is close to what a dominant quarterback is. Nobody changes the game more often than a dominant goalie in the regular season and the postseason. Yeah, do you have to have him? No, but it sure does help. Like the Predators, people would say this, well, they'd be a really bad team if they didn't have UC Saros. Yeah, but they have UC Saros.
They would be
and they had more points than the Florida Panthers. They had more points than the Florida Panthers, and it was because of UC Saros. He elevates. A great goalie elevates your team, like a great quarterback can mask a lot of issues on your team. The really good wingers, I think, are a little bit like the dominating running backs. Not that they grow on trees, right? But you can find wingers that can score 20, 25, 30 goals a lot easier than you can find the dominant goalie. So if you're offering me a couple of wingers who have some talent, the Predators have several of those in the pipeline, and they've got a couple established ones that if they have their act together are pretty good. So I'm not looking for that. I need the game changer. Who are the game changers? Who are the guys that are hard to find? Goalies, number one centers, dominant defensemen. Those are the guys that, to me, you got to come to the table with something like that. If I'm going to trade you my best, most established player, now Askarov is a totally different discussion, but not Saros.
And I think that's why this is as much of a conversation as it is because if the Predators had no goaltending prospects that weren't even ready to get called up to the NHL, then I would say, well, then no, that's not a move that you're going to make. But I think it's, one, the position that the Predators are in, the fact that both Barry Trotz and Andy Brunette have said, hey, be patient with us, which I think is coach and GM speak for, we don't really know how good we're going to be right now, but we really have a good plan and a vision for a bright future. So that's one thing. And I think the second thing is the fact that you do have Askarov coming down the pipe, and the fact that Askarov could be, and I'm not saying for certain, I'm not an Askarov whiz, but he could be ready by the time that the Predators have built up enough prospects and capital to be ready to contend for a Stanley Cup. And I think the third thing being that this is a conversation because not only do you have Askarov coming down the pipe, but UC Saros could be your ticket to finding that elite center of the future. Because it's not easy to find. If it was easy to find, everybody would have one. So if that is your ticket to finding that elite offensive player, then I would be open to it. But it's not a move that you're going to make just because you're saying, we'll get a couple pieces back. We'll get a couple guys that we think can help our offense. No. If you think that guy is your elite center of the future, that piece that this franchise has been missing for a very long time, then I would say you got to seriously think about it. But there was something that Elliot Friedman said when he was on with Chase and Michelle earlier today that I thought was interesting and could potentially change our perspective about the likelihood of a Predators trade. And we'll get into that coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts, 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase is brought to you by the new Zen Sports Sportsbook. With cash rewards and the easiest, simplest betting experience possible, betting just got better. Download the Zen Sports Sportsbook app today. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 1025-1063 The Game.
The cup has been raised.
In their sixth National Hockey League season, the Vegas Golden Knights have won the Stanley Cup.
And the offseason can officially begin. What's next for the Nashville Predators?
With the Predators, it's 1 for 1. Get those veterans to buy in. UC Saros, could the Predators trade him?
We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
The team at Mercedes-Benz of Music City have done it again. Here's Edwin Vickery to explain.
4-time recipient of Best of the Best. Less than 10% of the dealers in the country receive this award. How did you do it? We say culture, eat strategy for lunch, because we can strategize all we want. But unless you have the right culture and chemistry in the dealership, it will not work.
Live the dream at Mercedes-Benz of Music City, mbofmc.com.
Richmar Florist is family-owned and operated since 1955 and one of the top 100 florist companies in the country, providing their customers with quality flowers sourced from around the world and handcrafted floral arrangements. Richmar Florist is a proud sponsor of NASCAR and the Nashville Superspeedway, proudly serving the stars of NASCAR, IndyCar, and Hollywood, such as Elton John, Ozzy Osbourne, Alexander Rossi, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and many more. Learn more at richmarflorist.com. Richmar Florist, Pennsylvania-based, Tennessee strong.
Men, this is Evan Bass for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. If you're suffering with erectile dysfunction or other sexual health issues, you need to know that there is no one-size-fits-all treatment because everyone's made differently. That's why our urologists and medical providers offer a broader array of treatment options and can even combine or adjust treatments for greater effectiveness. ED can result from aging, low testosterone, prostate issues, underlying medical conditions, and more. And understanding why you have ED is the first step in treating the condition. That's why you need to know your numbers and understand what other factors might be contributing, and then work with an expert to treat it. And that's where we shine. At the Tennessee Men's Clinic, we have protocols that are effective in nearly 90% of cases. which means we'll likely find the right treatment for you and you can get your sex life back. So call us. Your first appointment includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices to serve you, Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Imagine you're looking at a balancing scale with everything you do for other people on one side and everything you do for yourself on the other side. If it isn't balanced, maybe it's time to spend a little more time on you. And therapy is a great place to start. BetterHelp connects you with a licensed therapist online who can help you find that balance and stick to it. Visit BetterHelp.com/score to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp.com/score.
With the first pick in the NBA draft.
The next generation of the NBA takes center stage.
I can't believe what just happened.
With the NBA draft. Our coverage begins tomorrow night at 6.
On 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey Nashville, this is Vanderbilt football head coach Clark Lee. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app. Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow, will join us in 30 minutes. We'll get his thoughts on all the goings-on with the Tennessee Titans. But we're now addressing an article on ESPN.com put out there by Greg Wyshynski. Love Greg, friend of the station. The headline is NHL offseason dominoes, moves that could create chaos. And one of those moves that could create chaos that Greg Wyshynski cites is Juuse Saros being traded potentially to the LA Kings. They're discussing a potential trade. What would that look like for the Nashville Predators? What would we need in return in order to feel confident about trading Juuse Saros? But I heard something when Elliot Friedman was on with Chase and Michelle earlier today about some of the behind the scenes, the inside baseball of what went on when those discussions were happening before the trade deadline. The David Poile conversations with other GMs across the league about a potential trade for Juuse Saros. And what Elliot Friedman said, some of the minutia of what happened with those conversations, made me kind of change my perspective a little bit of how serious the Predators really could be in the Saros trade sweepstakes. This was Elliot Friedman.
One of the biggest questions is, could they make a big swing in trading, Juuse Saros? There were some rumors earlier this year that they were in some talks. Is there any update you have on that or anything you've heard? And also, a little two-parter here, what do you think would be a fair return for a guy like Juuse Saros?
Well, I really believe that Saros calls were initiated by other teams and not by you. I think there were teams that called you. Like when you looked at the way that Nashville did things around the deadline, it was very clear that you were unafraid and you were willing to take bold swings. And when you're doing that, teams call you because they're not doing their job if they don't. They're like, wow, we just saw what you did with Tanner Jeannot or name one of the other trades you made. What else are you thinking? Like, what else could you do here? And, I think it was a situation where, like teams like the Kings that were looking for goaltending, they called you and they said, would you do Saros? And if so, what would it cost us? So I think there are teams who asked, and I think now there's a lot of goaltenders on the market.
Again, that was Elliot Friedman on with Chase and Michelle earlier today. And the point that really stuck out to me, that made my head kind of whip up a little bit, is when Elliot Friedman said other GMs were calling David Poile about Saros. David Poile wasn't calling other GMs about Saros. This was not something that was initiated within the Predators organization. Does that at all change your perspective on the Saros trade talk?
Yeah, I think it does, because if I am the GM of the guy that, is a part of this sort of trade rumor or possible trade, if I'm the GM and I'm not making the calls, then, I'm not too interested in parting ways from my player. I'm not. People are going to, other GMs are going to call, no matter in whatever sport. They're just going to call and see what you're thinking. See if they can get you to listen to, what they could potentially offer you for your dominant player. So yeah, I'm going to, out of common courtesy and respect, I'm going to take the call. But again, if it's not a conversation that is going to just like where I can't put the phone down, then it's like, okay, I hear you. Thanks for calling, but no thanks, and hang up the phone. So if I'm not the one that's initiating all this stuff that's going on, then the likelihood of it happening is very slim. Unless, again, like y'all said, unless they offer something that you just can't refuse, or it's hard for you to refuse, then okay. But other than that, I'm not the one that's reaching out to everybody trying to, facilitate a trade. I like my guy. He's one of the best goalies in the league. Why do I want to get rid of him? If y'all call me, that's fine. But I'm not calling y'all, so I'm not going to be too worried about this. I think this is a part of what happens this time of year. Teams are trying to fill other teams out, especially teams that were in the Nashville Predators situation where they had made these trades right before the trade deadline. So people thought, okay, this team they're giving up. It seems like they are planning for the future. But lo and behold, this team gets on a heater with these young guys, and they play fairly well. So it goes from, in a lot of people's minds, it goes from this team setting up for the future, and I'm talking about the future 2, 3, 4 years down the line, to, oh, man, they may have something, Why would they want to trade their goalie? So I think things like this just happens during this time of year, or right before the trade deadline, or right after it. And then once you get through the draft, I think things start to simmer down a little bit. And I believe this will be one of those situations where after the draft, I believe it's going to go away.
Yeah, I would, again, I'm putting it at 5%, and I think I'm being generous with the 5% that Saros has traded this offseason. And I think the mode that Elliott is saying is still the mode. I don't think they're going to be calling around saying, hey, would you take Saros for X, Y, Z? I don't think they're going to do that. I think teams might call them. You can't control that. But unless you're bringing it to the table, which I don't think anybody will approach what it would take, in my mind, to really consider it. Now, the one thing that I think is worth mentioning, it's been reported, and it's been several sources, so I think we can reasonably say it definitely happened. There were some conversations between the Kings and the Predators, initiated by the Kings, before they did trade for a goalie. They were in a bad position. They had a really good team, but they had really no goalies that they felt like they could win with in the playoffs. They ended up with Jonas Korpisalo, who's a good goalie. He's nowhere close to the stratosphere that UC Saros is, but the price was going to be too high. But I do wonder if there was any groundwork laid for, hey, okay, if you added X, Y to what you're offering, then maybe we could talk. I don't know how far it got just in theoretical conversations, but those conversations happen all the time. But obviously it didn't ever come close to what the Predators would want. So I doubt that would change. The Kings have some cap issues right now. They want a goalie. They're going to find a way to get a goalie, but they're going to have to be creative in how they do it. They're going to have to trade some money back. So I'm curious to see where that goes. And they're by no means the only team that's looking for a goalie. Also remember this. Connor Hellebuck is a different situation.
Totally.
The Jets know he's going to be gone in a year if they don't trade him. He's basically expressed publicly, don't want to go through a rebuild. So he's sent the signal, I'm not re-signing with the Jets. So that's going to affect big time what teams will offer the Jets. The Jets have to take what they can get.
When they have no leverage.
They don't have the leverage.
Take whatever you can get.
The Predators have no problem re-signing UC Saros down the road. The cap is going to go up. The Predators, despite a couple of contracts that aren't the best contracts, they rid themselves of a couple of those during the trade deadline. They're a very healthy cap team right now. They have the 10th most salary cap space of any team in the league. And it's not like they have Philip Forsberg to sign that's going to eat up that. The only guys they're going to re-sign are Glass and Carrier, which are going to be relatively inexpensive moves. So they have huge cap flexibility. They've got a ton of draft picks. There's nothing that keeps them from signing UC Saros to the next contract, and they don't have to do that for 2 more years. So most times players of Saros' caliber get traded because the team that has them knows that he's not going to stay with them. That's not the case with Saros. So to me, that's even more reason why you just sit back and you wait. Now, 5% this year could turn into a higher percentage next year after you see what Saros does, you see what the team does. He's a year away from free agency, and you see what Askarov does for a year, right? That's a different conversation in a year from now. But right now, 5% is the highest I will go of any possibility that they would trade Saros.
The Predators are in a good situation with UC Saros because they're not desperate. UC Saros isn't desperate to get out. The Predators aren't desperate to trade him. The Predators have the luxury of sitting back and saying, how bad do you want him? How desperate are you for UC Saros? Because we're not itching to get rid of him. So we can up the price. And you know that we're not itching to get rid of him. So you know that you can't lowball us. Connor Hellebuck, on the other hand, there may be a team that's looking at it like, hey, we'll give you a first-round pick, but that's really all we're going to do. That's the best that we can do because we know that you need to get rid of him. We know that you've got to take just the best deal that comes your way. The Predators don't have to take any deal that comes their way. They have the privilege of saying we have the privilege of taking whatever offer that we want. We don't have to give anything up. So I do think that puts them in a really good situation. Quick text here. Phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Jules texts in, says, do you trade straight up for Byfield for Saros?
I would not.
Byfield.
I would not. Now, Byfield is a really intriguing guy. I think he
Young.
was the second pick in the draft. He's only 20. He's got sky's the limit kind of potential. Remember, we asked Elliot about him last week because the Kings have been rumored about Pierre-Luc Dubois. He's a little bit older. He's more established. He's 24. Because I was asking, do you think Barry Trotz would get into the sweepstakes for that? That's another player for the Jets that says, I'm out of here. I'm not staying here after next year. They've got him for one more year, so they basically have to trade him if they want to get anything for him. And they should get a lot for him because he's 24 and he's a legit number one center. Byfield is 20. He hasn't had the breakout year. That's the only thing. That's what Elliott said, too. If you look at his stats, he had some good games. He's flashed brilliance a couple times against the Predators. But he hasn't put together the long stretch of dominating play that you would hope he eventually gets to. So I would need more than Byfield for Saros, for sure. But Jules is right to bring up his name because that's a guy that could potentially move the needle, but he hasn't done it yet. So I gotta have certainty. I can't have maybe if this guy breaks. I need certainty. UC Saros is one of the 5 best goalies in the game.
You're getting certainty with UC Saros. I want certainty back.
Yeah,
that's kind of the tough thing too. Is the Predators aren't looking for 32-year-old centers. They're looking for young pieces that they can build the team around. So if you're looking for certainty and youth, I don't really know where else you're going to get that other than Connor Bedard or any other players that teams around the NHL aren't willing to trade. But there are 2 names that have been thrown around, kind of been in conversation with potential trades for the Nashville Predators, trades that the Nashville Predators would acquire rather than trade away. We will get into those 2 names, their fits, and we'll get into those coming up next. And, of course, your thoughts as well, 615-737-1025. Jonathan Hutton in 15 minutes. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5-106.3 The Game.
We are Nashville's best sports talk, live and local from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. When you want the national
Hey. I got this. I'll take it from here.
Okay, go ahead. Dying to hear this.
We have the best national voices that you'll find anywhere.
Who was more deserving of being thrown from their game?
I'm odd, so I get the odd picks.
They have a new coaching staff.
It's not a bad scenario for them.
We are 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
And 94.9 The Fan.
Hey, let's tell you once again about Lone Pronto. Remember, the summer is full of adventure, and you might have that big-time home improvement project. You've got a good home in our listening area, and you know our area is hot. It's growing. We talked about Major League Baseball someday, all of these things that are going on in our city. That means your home's value is up. So you can utilize the value. You can make it more valuable if you want to do a home improvement project. How do you get the cash to do that? Well, Lone Pronto is ready to help you with that. They can keep your primary mortgage intact. Don't mess with that if you've got a good rate. But you can get the Express Equity line of credit, and you can get it in as little as 5 days, less than a week. you can have the cash to address the project you've been looking for, that new kitchen, that new bathroom that's going to make your home even more valuable. So find out more by going to loanpronto.com or just give them a call, 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780. Get excited about your big adventures for the summer. Call Loan Pronto right now about that Express Equity Credit Line and get the cash you need to address your adventures. 615-499-5780 or loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
Hey y'all, it's Courtney with Parman Tractor and Equipment. Warmer months have you working overtime? Be sure to visit Parman Tractor and Equipment for all your New Holland tractor and bush hog needs. Swing by our store at 3570 Dickerson Pike in North Nashville or give our sales team a call. We're now offering 0% financing for 72 months on select New Holland tractors. Get the brands you trust from a local dealer like Parman, always ensuring totally outrageous customer service. Visit ParmanTractor.com for the best deals on equipment, New Holland tractor, bush hog, and more.
When the game goes into overtime. But the game goes into overtime. Bud Light, easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Pick up Bud Light at your local convenience store today. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Many jobs, sports, recreational activities, getting older, or having arthritis in your knees increases your chances of having knee problems. Whether you're an active senior or a high school athlete with knee problems or injuries, the world-class doctors at Houston Clinic Orthopedics can treat your knee pain or injuries. Houston Clinic Orthopedics is conveniently located where you work and live. Visit their website at tn.houston.com and book your appointment online. When experience matters, trust Houston Clinic Orthopedics.
Buffalo Bill's Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's east entrance. 5 museums in one, including the fantastic Whitney Western Art Museum. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bill's Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
Hey, Ray Jeter here with Harness. Are you an experienced superintendent, project manager, foreman, or estimator? Do you possess a unique perspective that sees problems as valuable opportunities? We are an excavations and site utilities contractor. We are actively seeking skilled superintendents, project managers, foremen, and estimators who embrace challenges with a positive mindset. If you embody this mindset, apply today at selectharness.com. Harness LLC, build people, move dirt.
They're homegrown in Nashville, discussing the biggest topics in the SEC.
The fans are going to want the rivalries to stick around.
They've lost to Alabama every year.
The NFL.
What if all the top 3 quarterbacks went 1, 2, 3?
You've got to draft your guy at 2.
And anything in between.
From thinking we know everything to then forgetting about everything we thought we knew the day before.
They're Jonathan Hutton and Chad Withrow on Outkick's Hot Mic.
Out of the gates, ready to go.
Weekdays from 2 to 5 on 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, that's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and The Game Nashville app.
The 2022-23 season is behind us. What can Predators fans look forward to in these next couple of weeks ahead of the NHL draft?
Well, I think you're going to start hearing a lot of conversations picking up. I do think there's a lot of talk out there. I would think by now, a lot of other teams, know what the Predators are kind of thinking about. They're calling around. For one thing, like Barry's a new GM, so there's going to be a lot of people calling him, just saying, they'll be offering their congratulations, and then the Sharks will be swimming in the water. What do you want to do? What are you thinking about? What's going on with your roster? And that's kind of going on everywhere now. Like, the one thing about this is that the business starts quick. So 24 hours after or 48 hours after the Stanley Cup is awarded, the teams have to decide if they're going to take any players to arbitration. So that deadline is this afternoon, and it's going to be busy. There's going to be a lot of stuff going on, and I think when we get into Nashville for the draft, there's going to be some people trying to do some big things. Whether or not they get it done is another thing, but I think they're going to be trying.
That was Elliot Friedman on our show last week. What we've got to look forward to over the next couple of weeks. The NHL draft is in town next week. We'll be reporting live from Bridgestone Arena all next week. We've also got arbitration. We've got free agency. We've got a lot coming down the pipe in the NHL. But there are two names that we have talked about a lot, two names that we've discussed with Elliot Friedman, and I'm sure we will continue to discuss with him tomorrow. It's Alex DeBrincat and Pierre-Luc Dubois, two potential trades that the Predators could make in this offseason. Let's look at Alex DeBrincat first, because there's an article put out on The Athletic of teams that could potentially be interested in Alex DeBrincat. The first, the Detroit Red Wings. The second, the Nashville Predators. This article says it's about to be a new era in Nashville with Barry Trotz officially taking over as general manager in a few days. Already the message is clear from Trotz. The Predators need to boost their offense. I mean, that was one of my biggest takeaways from both Andrew Brunette and Barry Trotz and Andrew Brunette's introductory press conference. We want to be faster. We want to have the puck. When we have the puck, we want to keep the puck. When we don't have the puck, we want to get the puck and the cup.
The puck, get the puck, score the goal, get the cup.
And then the cup. It's that easy. I mean, I should be a hockey coach. It's that easy. Alex DeBrincat, I think, is an interesting one because Nashville is reportedly on his short list. Offensive firepower is something that Nashville needs. Be interested in the Alex DeBrincat sweepstakes.
I think because he's interested, you have to try to take a look and see what that would look like.
Do your due diligence.
Now, here's the thing about DeBrincat. Or if you're in Chicago, you would say, Brinket. That's it. Chris Mason and Hal Gill, they never let it go by an opportunity to say that. They love the super fans. Just Google SNL if you're Chicago super fans if you've never heard that bit before. But he's young. He's 25 years old, and he has already had a 41-goal season in 2022, a 41-goal season in 2019 when he was 21 years old. So he's already had two 40-plus goal seasons at his age. He makes $6.4 million a year for one more year. He's basically told the Senators not re-signing. So it's the Hellebuck. You might be able to get him for a little discount just because they have to deal him. They have to get something. He's a winger, right?
That's a caveat.
He's not the number one center, but he is a guy that can fly, and he's a power play monster, which is, does that maybe...
Sounds like something the Predators could
Predators
use some
fans
help
go,
with.
power play monster? Oh, let me hear more. Let me hear more. He's a guy that's fast. What do the Predators want to say? Hey, we want to be faster. We want to be faster. Now, he wants a long-term deal. So if you are trading for him, you're probably going to sort of feel it out, say, okay, Alex, do you like Nashville? Would you consider signing a long-term deal? If the answer is yes, then we're talking probably another one of those 8-year deals. I know how some people feel about those, like 8-year deals. Like, just ask Adam Vingan one time about the 8-year deal. He will tell you gloom and doom. Don't do that. Don't do it.
It would also be technically the second or third sign and trade if the Preds want to go that route too, Willie.
What do you mean by sign and trade?
So obviously he's going to arbitration more than likely if he's not traded. So that's something to think about there is if he does not get traded, then he's going that route, and then he's a UFA 1 or 2 years away.
Right.
But if you trade him, that's something to think about too, because you want to make sure you agree in principle to a deal.
Right. So that's a good point. He is unsigned for next year. He's a restricted free agent. So the qualifying offer, just to give him the 10% raise, he's already going to be really expensive. So he's going to want to raise on top of that. He didn't have a great year last year. He only 27 goals last year.
I'd take 27 goals. I mean,
for an off year, 27 goals, not bad.
That.
Not bad. And it was not a great year for Ottawa, but Ottawa wants to win. So here's my thinking. Now they might, this could be a hang up the phone for them, but you just never know. Ottawa wants to win. They don't want it. They wanted to sign Alex DeBrincat. They have salary cap space. They have the young nucleus that they have been painstakingly building for several years. They don't have a lot of draft picks. They traded their first-round pick this year to get Jacob Chikrin. So would they take a package of draft picks, which the Predators have, and would they take a big contract like a Matt Duchene to add a veteran to their young group of players that they have? that would be something that would, to me, be the home run.
I mean, that's
because
a double whammy right there. You're taking care of two of your needs.
Yeah, because if you trade for only prospects, picks, whatever, first of all, Ottawa is going to be, we got the prospects. We got the young players. We want to win.
We want to win right now.
But they got to take what the best offer is. So that would be intriguing if you dangled somebody like that towards like, okay, I know I've got the guy for 3 more years, and that's a veteran to add to my young mix. I don't know. I'm just throwing ideas out there because otherwise, if you bring in DeBrincat and you already have Forsberg, you already have Duchesne, you've got these young guys that you're like Evangelista that you're trying to move in, Tomasino. You're trying to see what you got in those guys. DeBrincat would be, you'd love to add a guy like that.
Right.
So I don't know. It could work either way, but the home run would be if I'm going to sign DeBrincat to one of these big contracts, could I get rid of a big contract in the process? Or maybe I retain part of it. I don't know. These are all things that go through my mind. But it's not perfect in that he's a winger and not a center. The other part that I would be a little hesitant, he has not played for a great team, right? He's done all these great numbers, but it's been on teams that haven't really won.
And I think with both DeBrincat and Pierre-Luc Dubois on the surface, it feels like home runs, right? But I think that each have their own caveats. DeBrincat would want to be here. I don't know if Pierre-Luc Dubois wants to be here.
Yeah, now he's the center.
He wants to go home.
He's the center.
He's the center.
But that's
the caveat with DeBrincat is that he is not.
Yep, and does Pierre-Luc Dubois want to be here? To me, if you have to feel that out in the front, you got to talk to his agent, back channels, and say, look, if we get in these sweepstakes, is he willing to sign here long term? Because if he's not, then we'll just move on.
Well, like Nick said, wouldn't it more than likely be a sign and trade if you were to get him? But then who do you trade? Obviously, it would be UC, but then who else would you trade? Because you would have to get rid of a contract.
It could be picks.
Other than UC's.
And it depends because the Senators need picks.
Uh-huh.
So that could be one avenue that would be more interesting to them is trading away the picks where you wouldn't have to trade away UC Saros. But I do think that if you would make that trade, I mean, from what it's been reported, Pierre-Luc Dubois wants to go to Montreal. He wants to go home.
That's the one.
But DeBrincat would want to be here. But DeBrincat doesn't play the position of need that Pierre-Luc Dubois does.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. So it's...
But I mean, he's in his prime. It's not like he's 30, 31.
Right. They're both early 20s,
so
early mid-20s.
You figure he's got the prime left, and he's had 2 40-goal seasons already. If you want to play fast, then that's...
He's going to help you play fast.
He's going to help you play fast.
And the caveat there, too, is with both of them, like Elliot Friedman was on with Jason Michelle earlier today, he said that Pierre-Luc Dubois wants an 8x9. He's looking for 8 years around $9 million.
Right.
That's steep.
That's steep.
I don't know if I would have interest in that.
If it's a number one center, and remember, Dubois is only 24.
Right.
So you have to feel like you'd be getting the prime years of his career. These are the things that on the surface I'm intrigued, but then you got to get into your scouts. Mm-hmm. That's when you start saying, okay, what's this guy's mindset? Is he a leader? Is he gonna help elevate the other players around him? What's he gonna be like in our culture? These are the things that to me are the key questions when you're trying to build a winning team. Because the beauty of it for the Predators is they have the ammo, they have the tools, the assets to make deals like this, or at least get in the hunt for deals like this. They have the cap space. Mm-hmm. They have the picks. They have good prospects coming through the system. So I think they have the ability to have these talks for any of these players that we're talking about. That's exciting.
It is exciting, and it'll be fun to see over the next week or so before the NHL draft. We'll take a quick Predators breather coming up next. Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mike and Hutton with Hutton and Withrow will join us. We'll get his thoughts on the latest on the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes, the latest on what we've heard from the Tennessee Titans. That coming up with Jonathan Hutton. Coming up next, Caroline Whitley, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
94.9 The Fan is your home for Hit City.
Your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series at First Horizon Park tonight against Norfolk. Swing and a miss, strike 3. Sounds win. Pre-game at 6:20.
On your home of Nashville Sounds baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen. Hey, it's John Tesh. You know why insurance companies use all those cute and funny characters? To distract you from realizing you're only getting one option. If you want to compare prices, you're forced to visit multiple websites just to get one quote at a time. But not with Xander Insurance, because they work for you. Xander is a broker that shops dozens of top companies to find the best competitive rates for the coverage you need, and they keep reviewing your policy every year to make sure you're getting the best value. They're always available to answer questions, handle problems, and make sure that when it comes to insurance, your life is simple and hassle-free. You even have direct access to their senior management team. If your current company or agent doesn't do this much for you, let Xander Insurance help. Compare rates online at Xander.com or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch. When Xander works for you, you're going to see the difference. Again, that's 800-356-1780. 1780, or you can visit Xander.com with no characters needed.
The Big Machine Music City Grand Prix is back in Nashville August 4th through 6th and is a must-see experience that has something for everyone to enjoy. 102.5 The Game and 94.9 The Fan has all your coverage leading to the race, including driver interviews with Chase McCabe, ticket giveaways, and much more.
Now, your Game Center update.
This is Nick Keyser. The Tennessee Volunteers season came to a close last night out on the diamond in Omaha, losing 5-0 to the LSU Tigers. Tennessee's season ends with a 44-22 overall record. Here's what head coach Tony Vitello had to say after the loss.
I think it was a competitive group. They can hang their hat on the fact that, we talked about perspective. There's a variety of tradition within each program. It takes a lot in our league to be able to brag about tradition. But for us in particular, we wanted to get to a regional, and then we wanted to have a roster that was really athletic that you guys would be excited to write about.
Meanwhile, in the NHL, goaltender Connor Hellebuck has drawn interest from the New Jersey Devils, according to a report from Pierre LeBrun. Hellebuck is a Vezina Trophy finalist with his future in question, playing for the Winnipeg Jets. And the Nashville Sounds look to continue their win streak at 7 tonight as they're back in action at 6:20 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan, taking on the Norfolk Tides. Last night's game was rained out, but a doubleheader will take place tomorrow. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 102.5 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Broadcasting on Alexa.
I appreciate that.
And other smart speakers. 102.5 and 106.3.
And the score!
You can run different offenses.
The doors on the board.
Off the field, on the field.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, and we are streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. Joining us now is Jonathan Hutton from Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow. Hutton, it's always my favorite time of the week when we get to chat with you. The latest on the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes, he has left New England. He did not sign a contract. What we've heard reported by several different reporters and several different outlets is that he is taking his sweet time. What is he waiting for, and what does that mean for the Titans?
Well, Caroline, and thank you for the kind words. My favorite 30 minutes as well of the week. Hope everyone's doing well. DeAndre Hopkins is waiting on something closer to the money that he's wanting. That's the only way to take this, and he can be afforded to slow play it because between now and training camp, there's not much that's going on. And maybe they can draw up some more interest. But honestly, I think he comes away, my guess is, a bit surprised that the market isn't a bit larger, maybe just in terms of the number of teams that brought him in versus the contract offers or just the language or terms of whatever they discussed while he was there in both cases. Maybe there's another team or two that pops up. I still think Cleveland makes sense. You hear rumblings that he and Dalvin Cook are now trying to team up. that's Cook, I think, stirring that pot because he can't get a lot of momentum on his own, and Hopkins has more than him, which is saying a lot. So I'm intrigued by the cat and mouse game here because I think the Titans and the Patriots both know that they can get Hopkins in. It's just a matter of at what price. And right now, they're dictating the market, not Hopkins.
And do you think that that could be a good thing for the Titans in landing DeAndre Hopkins, or a bad thing, or it really doesn't mean anything because there haven't been very many other offers out there?
Well, I don't know if it's good or bad. It's just the reality of where they are. You know, like they would offer him more if they could, because he makes their roster better. He makes their depth better. Does he make them faster? No. Does he make them a better team with him on the field? Yes. But it's just a salary cap structure really for both. The Patriots have more, but they don't have a ton either. And my guess is they're looking around the same way the Titans are, trying to make sure that they're not eating something up for the future while bringing in a player that they feel like can immediately help them now. And also look at it from this way. What are Hopkins' priorities? Initially it was he wants to be around a team that is structured from the top down with strong leadership, which to me was not Houston and was not Arizona. He's gone to places that he has trusted. That is, of course, with Vrabel. And surprisingly, it's been not Bill Belichick, but Bill O'Brien as the offensive coordinator, who Michael Irvin said 3 years ago, that Hopkins felt so disrespected that, he was, pissed off at the world over what happened in Houston. A lot can change, but these are the two teams that control it. And honestly, I lean towards New England just based on the cap space they have and the structure of their roster more so than I do Tennessee. But again, the Titans have the ability to make some moves just like any team in the league could if they wanted him.
Jonathan Hutton is with us. Outkick's Hot Mic with Hutton Withrow. Hutton, how much does it bother you, and how much do you think it really bothers or matters to the Titans that D-Hop traditionally does not like to practice?
Honestly, it doesn't really bother me. I mean, I look at results, all right? Like when he has been on the field, and and let me also throw this in there. Just looking at the numbers don't say everything. When he's on the field with the week 1 starter, who's also healthy, the guy puts up decent numbers, and he's returning as one of the leaders, the top 20 in yards per catch average, I believe, right now in the league if he plays this year. And he's the returning leading receiver if Julio Jones doesn't return this year at all, which I don't think is going to happen for the National Football League. He can improve any roster he's a part of. I don't get the sense that he's the diva behind the scenes where he's just refusing to practice. I think it's just where he is in his career. And at some point, I mean, it's hard for me, Caroline, to really understand what is important and what's not whenever you have Doug Peterson telling the veterans in Jacksonville for not the first but the second year in a row, hey, don't even worry about coming to minicamp. It's mandatory, but you guys are excused. And we just want this for the young guys. Yeah, I mean, this guy's going to come in and he's going to be D-Hop. And that's what you would sign him for. I'm not signing him to practice. I'm signing him to score touchdowns. And if they treat him like that in the red zone, I think we got into this last week, if they deliver him the football where he can score, I'm totally fine with that because the Titans don't have many producers that get across the goal line. They've got options that can get a first down. They don't have guys that are putting up points, and Hopkins has done that.
Let me couch this by saying, D-Hop is a fabulous player.
Yes.
He has a damn near Hall of Fame resume. To me, I think he's the best catcher of the football, or he has been the best catcher of the football since Larry Fitzgerald, and before that, since Chris Carter. And I throw Megatron in there as well. But what he's able to do and how he contorts his body, he has total body control and hand control like I've never seen other than those 2 or 3 guys
Crazy.
That I mentioned.
Yeah, acrobat.
Yeah, it's just it's but it irks me when people say And it's not just you, Hut. And I understand why y'all are saying it, because I think when you get to a point when the team hasn't established themselves in a certain area, or when they did, they chose to get rid of a guy, you want somebody to come in there. And you're like, I don't care what he does. We just need production on the field. So I get that part. I understand. I don't want you to think I don't understand that part, because I'm sort of there too. Like, damn, man, they need somebody. They got rid of AJ. They got rid of Corey Davis. They need somebody that's going to catch the football other than Traylon Burks. But when you say I don't care if he doesn't practice, this is the problem that I have with that. If this was a veteran, receiver room, I'm not going to even say I can go with that, because I'm a dude that love to practice. It was just in my DNA to practice, unless, and they will tell you, people will tell you, Mase practiced every day unless he just couldn't practice. I had a broken scapula and still was practicing, because I knew how important practice was, not just to me, but to those younger guys that were watching me. Like, Mase is still practicing, so when I have a slightly, a thing in my hamstring, maybe I want to go out, but I see Mase out there, I'm going out there, and I'm going to try to fight through it. I may not go every period, but I'm going to try to fight through it. When you have someone like D-Hop with the skins that he has on the wall, practice is paramount. Not necessarily to him, but to those younger guys that are watching. The Traylon Burks, the Kyle Phillips, the Racey McMath, who has a hard time getting on the field. Anyway, when they're watching this guy put in the work on the practice field, in their mind, they're like, I got to do like D-Hop. If I want to get to that level, I got to be like him. When he's not practicing, you know what they're thinking too? Well, hell, D-Hop ain't practicing, so, if I got a little twinge, I don't need to practice because he's not practicing. My thing with this is
I understand what you're saying. I'm not saying he shouldn't practice at all, right? But I'm thinking also, and I'm answering this in the terms of, okay, Ben Jones wasn't practicing every day last year. Derrick Henry doesn't practice every day last year. Julio Jones didn't practice either, and then he didn't play. And if he was active, he wasn't on the field on a critical third down.
But he got on Vrabel's bad side very early. Very early.
Yeah. But this would be a Vrabel signing to me if they bring in Hopkins. I mean, Hopkins is choosing the Titans to visit because of Vrabel, because of Tim Kelly. And again, I just think production speaks volumes more than what a guy does on a Thursday during a glorified walkthrough. And I'm speaking from this angle, Mase. It's not on the optics. It's the optics of what I've seen from Julio Jones. They trade away a second-round pick. They bring him in. He doesn't practice very much. He apparently hated it too. And then the injuries cropped up, and we never saw him on the field. And when we did, it was on a meaningless play more than it was a critical down and distance where he's standing and watching on the sideline with a helmet on. Like he has the ability to go in, just didn't do it. They didn't put him in. Or Robert Woods, who's coming off an ACL and practiced all the time. And then we saw nothing from him whenever Burks went down. He did not have the ability to step up and produce. To me, it didn't matter if he practiced or not. The production wasn't there. If the production is there and they treat him like he's a number two that can be a number one, but Burks is their number one dude, I'm okay with that. Because that's where right now, they've got to add another reliable piece that gives the threat of a defense thinking that they're about to get burned for a touchdown, give up some points whenever they get into a scoring zone or a scoring region. I mean, I'm trying to bare bones it here, but to me, it's not about, what they do on a Wednesday installation, as long as the guy goes out there and knows the offense. And that's simply based on his status right now and thinking that he's healthy for 17. I'm not. If he's healthy for 10 and he's practicing halfway because, he's just trying to get through the season, I don't want that. But I do want a guy that's hungry and wants to prove it. And if Hopkins wants to come in and help a team win, I think that's extremely valuable compared to what we've seen of the last two free agent veterans that they've brought in, either via trade or actually both of them were trades, Woods and Julio Jones, that were more experiments that were, backlashed into what we saw, which was not good, and they're still eating part of the money on Julio right now.
You struck a nerve, Hut. You struck a nerve.
Hut didn't just strike that nerve. It's been and again, I will discuss this on the other side, Hut. And it's just again, I discuss it on the other side. Yeah.
We'll stick around with Jonathan Hutton coming up next.
Give me 10 seconds. I want to set this up just to think about. Look at the depth chart right now, and if Burks goes down, what do they have? Like that. That's what my mindset is, guys. On this, I'm not thinking about what they have on Wednesday, Thursday, or Friday. I'm thinking about Sunday afternoon.
Fair. More with Jonathan Hutton coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
Stuck at work without a radio?
Wait a minute. Disastrous.
I hate that.
It's got to be there.
That's okay. Download the Game Nashville app or go to thegamenashville.com and listen live. We are Nashville's best sports talk, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
Catch Nashville Sounds baseball tonight at First Horizon Park at 6:35 as the Nashville Sounds take on the Norfolk Tides. The first 1,000 fans will take home a Sounds Clear tote bag. Plus, play music bingo during the game for awesome prizes. Grab your tickets at NashvilleSounds.com.
Joe Ruxford here to tell you about PhD weight loss because 6 weeks, I'm down 20. I feel great. I'm loving the food items, and by the way, they provide 85% of the food at no extra cost. No pills, no gimmicks, no other suppressants. It feels good, and it feels sustainable, and that is obviously a huge thing for people who want to lose weight and keep it off. You know, one thing about PhD, it's a plateau-busting program. You know what I'm talking about. You get to that plateau, you kind of stall out, you want to quit. Look, this with accountability, support, education, one-on-one weekly coaching, you're learning what's happening with your nutritionist, getting rid of the visceral fat in your body, and this really helps you keep going. It is simple and easy. Again, like I said, the weekly discussions with your coach. You don't have cravings. You don't have any crap you're putting in your body, and there's a guarantee. If you don't get within 5 pounds of your target weight at the end of the program, PhD will continue to coach you for free until you do. Join me. Check it out. Visit myphdweightloss.com.
Have you Googled yourself lately? Are there negative posts from an ex-employee or from a former client? Maybe an outdated news article or sensitive personal information about your family? Search engines don't always get it right. For right or wrong, it's your reputation on the line. That's where Reputation Defender by Norton comes in. One of the most trusted names in online reputation repair, Reputation Defender has been fixing people's search results for over 15 years. Their cutting-edge approaches help you to wipe away unwanted information in your search results. They also promote the good stuff so that it rises to the top, helping you put your best foot forward. Your good name is too valuable to leave to the whims of a Google algorithm. Take control with Reputation Defender. You can start by getting your free reputation report card at reputationdefender.com or call 800-401-6681 to speak to an expert. That's 800-401-6681.
Anyone want to tell me what happened? Did you miss any of today's show?
It's okay. It's fine. Don't worry.
Subscribe to the Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase podcast on Apple, Spotify, and other podcast platforms, or by going to thegamenashville.com.
All right, I'll give it a shot.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mic with Hutton and Withrow is with us now. And D-Mase, he's been there. It's on his practice soapbox. I asked the question to Hutton. Does he really care if D-Hop doesn't practice? Honestly, I can live with it because I think, you know, what are the Titans' other options?
I mean, listen, and again, I understand why we are in this situation. Because if the Tennessee Titans had their number one, which they believe they do, in Traylon Burks, and they had a guy that can be a complimentary number two, and then you bring D-Hop in, I think people would be more concerned about his practice habits, if indeed that is truly the case, because I don't know. It's sort of hearsay that he didn't like practicing at Houston. He probably didn't like practicing in Arizona.
Without much leadership on those organizations,
if I see a duck and he quacks, you can't tell me then it's a dog. just because he's in a different area, or he's not in the water anymore. You can't tell me as a dog. I heard him. I seen him. He's a duck. I heard him quack. He's a duck. He's not going to change. If indeed D-Hop has been that guy that didn't want to practice, he's not going to change this at this juncture in his career. And that, to me, just as a player being in that position, that's alarming to me. Now, it may not be alarming to other people, but it's alarming to me because I think as you get older, you need those days. Now, there's going to be some days where Vrabel say, or Coach Belichick says, you know what, you don't practice, and that's that. But as a veteran guy, I am not walking on that practice field or walking in that building saying, today I'm not practicing. That has to be a decision based on what the head coach is thinking for me. I'm not walking in saying, hey, listen, I'm not practicing today because I just don't feel like practicing. I feel a little bit tired today, or I didn't sleep well today. If indeed that is sort of the MO of Hop, and I want to believe it's not true, but these are the things that we're hearing, then I'm being very, very, these are warning signs to me as a head coach, because I don't want to have to, put myself in a pretzel or make some concessions for one guy. You mentioned Ben Jones. Well, Ben Jones had been with this team for 5-6 years. He has established himself. They knew exactly what Ben Jones was like. They knew if Ben Jones could play, Ben Jones would play. He may not practice, but he would play. So Ben Jones is sort of like a different situation. But if I'm bringing you in and I'm paying you money, top money, which means you're going to be my number one receiver, regardless of what anybody else think. If I'm paying you the most in that room, you, by virtue of you being the highest paid player, you're going to be my number one target. I don't need my number one target just pulling himself out of practice because I just don't feel like practicing today. That's just me. I thought that was Vrabel too, but it seems like people are trying to make concessions and say, maybe that's not Vrabel now. Maybe they just want to win. If they were one guy away from winning a Super Bowl, maybe, just maybe, I can, I can agree with that. But this team is not one guy away from the Super Bowl.
No,
they're
and
more
I agree
like
with
10
that
guys away from the Super Bowl, if you ask me.
I agree with that too. Yeah, I
understand where you are coming from, Hut, and I understand where other people are coming from that sort of think along that lines, but I can never get with that under no circumstance unless the player is just hurt, period.
But I'm not coming at it, Mace, from like, okay, he's not going to practice in August or September. Mm-hmm. I'm looking at this like I answer that with the mindset of, is he going to miss a practice or 2 or 4 in November and December, right? Like that's what I'm thinking. And it's not a full week and then all of a sudden he's going. To me, this would be not planned, but there are certain days where guys just don't practice. Just because that's the coach's
and I don't understand
guys don't practice Wednesday.
Hey, I don't understand that either, because I can see if this was 1993, 1999, 2000 practice schedule where it was hard, like it was grueling, then I can understand that. But they get Monday off, you get Tuesday off, Wednesday is sort of like putting in the package and we're easing into it. Thursday is really the hard day, is Thursday. So my thing is, why the hell aren't you practicing? Damn
and
it.
There's only like 10 practices a year where they can put pads on.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's red flags to me. That's just me. It's just a red flag.
And that's fair.
Uh-huh.
And that's fair. I'm not saying I disagree with the red flag. I look at the depth chart as a red flag.
Yeah, I know. I get that. You're right about that as well.
It is definitely a red flag.
It's definitely a red flag.
There's some red.
I'm just trying to improve the depth chart with somebody that I know Vrabel respects, and I know that respects Vrabel. Here's the other thing, just briefly.
Uh-huh.
You mentioned Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. If DeAndre Hopkins wants to be a Hall of Famer, he's right there. Okay, he'll be debated. Mm-hmm. But if he wants to be a Hall of Famer, doesn't he go sign with Kansas City or Buffalo right now?
I think that's what he's waiting for, honestly. And I've told
the numbers
and
are coming. It's not coming back to the Titans. The numbers are going down towards Kansas City and Buffalo. That's the way I look at that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think New England, with the most space, is going to have to make a better offer that's a little more than whatever Buffalo is going to come in top dollar and offer also the case of winning a Super Bowl. Same for Kansas City.
because I'm looking at what's going on in Kansas City at their wide receiving core, and they'll make anything work, but they can make Hopkins look like a first ballot guy if they want to.
Well, let's tie it together.
Again, those are all things to consider for what he wants, and honestly, all he's wanted so far is just to take some free agent visits, and there were only 2 of them that have been reported.
Well, let's tie it together too. Another thing I'd want to know does he want to be a Hall of Famer? To be a Hall of Famer, 2, 3, 4 more productive seasons would make it a no-brainer. And
yes.
So does he have the drive? Does he have the want to be out there? That's where the practice thing comes in for me. Like, you don't start practicing more if you haven't been practicing much in your 20s, in your 30s. And so it gets tougher and tougher to do it that way. Your body is going to start breaking down unless you have the special ability to be available. That's the thing I don't know about DeAndre Hopkins that I would want to find out if I'm Mike Vrabel and I'm trying to figure out how much to invest in DeAndre Hopkins.
And even if you're proud, there's only 23 players that have accomplished more than 4,000 yards after they turn 31.
Yeah.
And
Derek's one of them.
Derek Mason's one of them. Larry Fitzgerald, Tim Brown, Steve Smith, Tony Gonzalez, Jerry Rice, Marvin Harrison. It is a who's who list. But Hopkins has that type of talent.
Yeah.
He also, again,
but it's about your habits as much as your talent at this stage.
Is he looking for a 1-year deal and just trying to go out on his own terms, or is this, hey, I've got a lot left in the tank and it's time to turn it up, not kind of coast? And I'm not viewing it through the lens of, okay, he's looking at New England and Tennessee and that's it. Mm-hmm. Those are just the only teams that are offering right now that we know of. They're not the teams, by the way, that were interested in, at least reported to be interested for trades, other than the Florio report about the Titans moving up to 3, and Hopkins was in on that. So again, I still think Kansas City with Mahomes and Allen with Buffalo can play a factor. And I thought Tannehill missed out on an opportunity, if he wanted Hopkins to say so, at his last press availability. And by the way, big part of the momentum for Julio Jones was A.J. Brown. If the wide receiving core wants to look better, I would also think that you would be vocal about bringing in Hopkins too. Again, I just haven't heard the same sentiment for Hopkins like I've heard for Julio, because it was loud from AJ.
It was. Mm-hmm. Hut, I want to throw this avenue that just came up yesterday, and my theory is that it is strictly born out of there's nothing to talk about in the league, nothing else is going on, and you had this podcast where now it's Dalvin Cook somehow joining forces with DeAndre Hopkins. It's like something out of a fantasy world. But I'm looking at SportsCenter; they're talking about it. Maybe this is just ESPN needing to fill time, but that's ridiculous to me. Like, why do we think this is even a story?
Well, because Cook and his crew, his agency, his representatives are doing a good job of keeping his name out there, because it's been all quiet on the Western Front for him.
Well, it's quiet in the league, so it's pretty easy to get attention since it's kind of he's the best player out there, and these are probably the 2 biggest stories going. So I guess they're blending the 2.
He wants to be in Miami, where he's from, for some reason, Jeremy Fowler on ESPN mentioned Miami as a possibility for this duo landing spot. And I'm thinking, I mean, they've got a stable.
That's my question. Is Jeremy Fowler just bored and have nothing else to do? And so trying to figure out a fantasy way to fit this into cap, it just doesn't seem practical to me. Why would a team sit there and say,
the team that could do it that makes the most sense based on interest in Hopkins is New England. They have somewhere between 14 and 16 million in cap space. They have Ramondre Stevenson right now as their number 1 back, and they have a need at wide receiver. So they could do it. Both of these guys would have to take less than whatever they think their value is individually on the market. That's number 1. But apparently Cook is tweeting out or putting something out on social media about some insane craziness that's going to happen in free agency. Again, I think they're just drumming up storylines and momentum, trying to become a package deal. But the teams with the most salary cap space right now, Chicago, by the way, that they have plenty of space to do it. Indianapolis is up there. I haven't heard the Colts mentioned for anything like this for years in terms of free agency and bringing in a quote unquote name players. And then beyond that, I mean, New England's in the mix because they're right there at the top 10, top 15 in cap space, just because not many teams have cap space right now. You have to make a ton of moves in many cases to maneuver contracts down the road to bring in one guy, let alone two. So again, I'm viewing it through it's one or the other, and not many teams right now are going to go in for a market at running back. I think that's clear because they feel like they can get a ton of production through the draft, and they've already saddled up with those guys.
Jonathan Hutton is with us. Last one for you, Hut. The way that I've been looking at what the Titans should offer or have offered DeAndre Hopkins is really based off of the market. It's Tennessee and New England. Do you view it any differently? Are there other aspects that you keep in mind when offering DeAndre Hopkins?
Well, so the Titans, I keep thinking like the Titans can make salary cap room if they wanted to kick certain numbers down the road on Tannehill. They could restructure Harold Landry again, but give him more guaranteed money for the second consecutive offseason where he didn't play last year. Again, there are ways to do it, but I don't know the monetary figures on either side, New England or Tennessee. I just know that Hopkins didn't sign with either, and both let him walk. Right. I also think like the offer to me is also an indication of kind of how I would describe this offseason. They're not completely rebuilding. They're not trying to give that away, but they're also not going all in either. Like Mace mentioned it, it's not they're not one player away. So the offer doesn't need to be over the top because it would be a completely different line of thinking coming from them if they gave him Odell Beckham Jr. type money, because the Ravens feel like they're a Super Bowl contender. And based on the way this roster is right now, the Titans are just trying to be competitive. I think they can be. In a lot of one-score games, Hopkins can help with that too. But I don't think they need to come over the top and restructure a bunch of deals in order to be competitive in the AFC South. I think the reports, if completely accurate, are, to me, an indication of everything we've seen over the last 6 to 7 months, where it's a team that's trying to win but also prepare for the future. And you don't do that by giving a ton of money to one guy and acting like it's putting you over the top, not just in the AFC South, but competing for the AFC.
Hut, you're the best. Appreciate you as always. We'll chat next Wednesday.
It sounds great. I always enjoy this. Have a great week, guys.
Awesome. Thanks, Hutton. You too. Coming up next, we'll react to what Jonathan Hutton had to say. Plus, we've got a bunch of thoughts in our text line, so we'll get to those as well. 615-737-1025. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase. 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
The offseason is in full swing, but there's no slowing down ESPN's Teron Davenport.
The flow of information.
He talks the talk.
Spears gives you that guy that can still hit the home run.
And walks the walk.
As a run blocker, he's going to murder a linebacker at the second level.
On everything Titans. TD is on Mondays at 1, Thursdays at 3, Friday mornings at 8, and anytime on the Talkin' with TD podcast. TD is on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game. And the Game Nashville app.
When the game goes into overtime. But the game goes into overtime. Bud Light. Easy to drink, easy to enjoy. Pick up Bud Light at your local convenience store today. Enjoy responsibly. Anheuser-Busch, Bud Light Beer, St. Louis, Missouri.
Are you drowning in credit card debt? Want to get cash out of your home's equity? Loan Pronto can do it now in less than a week. Hey, Willy Donick here. That's right. Loan Pronto's Equity Express line of credit just got even faster. You can get $50,000, $100,000, even $200,000 in as little as 5 days. You don't even have to touch your primary mortgage. You can keep that 3% rate intact. Get just the money you need and pay off all those credit cards or get that home improvement project started. With this revolutionary program, you can access up to 90% of your home's value, and in most cases, there's no appraisal. Stop paying insane interest rates to the credit card companies and get tens or even hundreds of thousands of dollars in cash in as little as 5 days. Call Loan Pronto now for the even faster Equity Express line. 615-499-5780. That's 615-499-5780 or go to loanpronto.com. 615-499-5780. Equal Housing Lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval.
AM radio provides always-on news, sports, talk, traffic, and weather reports. And it's also a vital service that provides important emergency information when your community needs it most. Tell Congress you need AM radio to stay in your car. Because when cell phones and the internet are down, this free emergency service is critical. And when you don't have electricity, radio in the car is often your only lifeline. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress we need AM radio in cars. This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
With the first pick in the NBA draft.
The next generation of the NBA takes center stage.
I can't believe what just happened.
With the NBA draft. Our coverage begins tomorrow night at 6.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Pekka Rinne. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk, ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Hey, you can catch the Rackley Roofing 200, Tennessee Lottery 250, and the Ally 400 all on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game on June 23rd through 25th. Coverage presented by Richmond Florist, a top 100 florist company in the country and a proud sponsor of Nashville Super Speedway. We've got a bunch of thoughts in our text line, so unless we have some thoughts from Jonathan Hutton.
Let's hear them.
Let's hear them.
Let's get to the phones. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHyundai.com. Ben from Nashville texts in, says D-Hop is a Hall of Famer and our wide receiver room is trash cans of a trash can. And Vrabel knows him personally. He's worth a calculated risk, and if he misses practice and is a little lazy, I don't care how it impacts the future effort level of NWI and Racy freaking McMahon.
I wouldn't want that guy anywhere near my team. That guy that just said that, I wouldn't want him anywhere near my team. For one, let's say this. Unless, because this receiving room isn't the best. They have one guy that has proven he can be, if he stays healthy, he can be a number one guy.
He's shown potential.
Traylon Burks.
Yeah.
We see another guy in Chris Moore that he can be a 2. But in a lot of offenses, he will more likely be your 3, which is, in this league, you need 3 really good receivers. Then you have NWI, who has proven he can make some key catches in this league. And he's a NFL receiver. He's a player. He's an NFL receiver in this league. Kyle Phillips, just like Traylon Burks, he's shown the potential of being a really good slot player. Racy McMahon, we just don't know because he can't get on the field. He's just, for whatever reason, it's just been hit or miss with him. Injured, all this other stuff. So he's never really been able to. And you know him better than we do because he went to LSU. So
yeah, and I don't really know how much you can really expect from Racy McMahon.
Exactly. So, people, this receiving group is not damn trash. You don't know what trash looks like in the receiving room. This ain't it. This is not it. You have guys that are not proven. Let's say that. Let's reword this whole trash, because if you haven't played in the NFL, you don't know what qualifies as a trash receiving room and what doesn't. I'm just going to tell you that right now.
Do you think there's a trash receiving room in the NFL right now?
I don't know. Oh. I really don't know, because these guys are good enough to play in the NFL. Mm-hmm. So you can't tell me, and this is not toward anybody, I'm just saying as a whole, you can't tell me that they're not good enough to play in the NFL when they're in the NFL right now playing. Are you in the NFL playing? No. Have you ever played in the NFL? Probably not. More than likely, no, you haven't. So let's not go that far to say they're trash, okay? That's disrespecting what they're doing. They're working hard. They may not be as good as others. This is a young receiving room. Let's say that. A young, inexperienced receiving room. In this league, you need guys that are experienced. You do. You need a few guys that are experienced along with your young guys so they can kind of help one another, mesh with one another. I've always said young guys can help out the older guys. Older guys can help out the young guys. This room is not trash, okay? They brought in guys that just didn't work out. And you should have known they didn't work. They were not going to work out based upon their history and where they were in their careers, i.e. Julio Jones, Woods. Name any other wide receiver you've brought in here within the last 5 or 6 years. They were at a period in their career where you weren't going to get too much out of them. But to sit here and say, and I hate that I've just gone on this tangent, but to sit here and say this receiving room is trash, unless you've been in those rooms and played in this league, I'm just talking about this specific room and these specific players, meaning the receivers, you're not qualified to say that this room is trash. They're inexperienced. NWI has made a lot of plays for the Titans. Okay? Kyle Phillips has made a few plays for the Titans. Traylon Burks has as well. Chris Moore made plays last year for his former team, the Houston Texans. This team, this receiving core, where it's not as good as others, but it's not trash. It's a young receiving core that just needs to show up. They need to go out there and play the way that they're capable of playing. Adding another guy will help this room. Adding a D-Hop will help this room. But this room, as the texter said, it's not going to go from trash or double trash, whatever he said, add D-Hop, and now they're just going to be the best receiving core or even a middle-of-the-road receiving core. You don't go from trash to the middle of the road by adding one player, unless that one player is Jerry Rice. But even if that, you're not going to go, which tells me this is just an inexperienced receiver room. And when you add a veteran, whether it's D-Hop or some other veteran that is willing to come in here, that's why I say practice is key, willing to come in here and show these young receivers how to go about their business. Hear me again. Show these young receivers how to go about their business. Their business is playing football. Their business is practicing. Practicing good habits, which means they translate in games. So when you say, I don't care if he doesn't practice, well, hell, you've never been on a football team then.
I think it's fair to say this receiving room is in the bottom of the league.
Yeah, I'm not saying this.
Yeah.
It's a inexperienced,
unproven,
young core. You know who else is inexperienced and unproven? The Giants receiving core last year. They were. And then all of a sudden, they made the playoffs. They made the playoffs with that same receiving core that they started to get better.
They traded Kadarius Toney.
Yeah, so it's just like.
And still made the playoffs.
This is not, again, that's all I'm saying. Don't call them trash. That's all I'm saying. They may not be good as others, but they're not trash.
And that's fair. And I think I look at it with the D-Hop situation and to the texture's point of, he will make this receiver room better. Who cares if he doesn't practice? The way that I interpret that is once you put yourself in this situation and you have chosen not to address one of the certain needs of the team, you can't be as picky as maybe you normally would. If you're in a draft interview with a guy and the guy says, yeah, you know what, I don't practice, I'm good, I don't need that. You're probably not going to draft that guy because you have the privilege of being picky, because you sit in a position where you can choose one of hundreds of players in the draft. When you need a receiver, and there aren't very many solid receiver options out there, you're going to have to compromise on a few certain things. Let's get back into your text because we have got a bunch of them. Plus, what Vegas has to say about the D-Hop odds, and do we really care? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase is brought to you by the new Zen Sports Sportsbook with cash rewards and the easiest, simplest betting experience possible. Betting just got better. Download the Zen Sports Sportsbook app today. 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
At Nashville Superspeedway, Chase Elliott wins.
The NASCAR Cup Series is ready to invade the Music City June 23rd through 25th. We have you covered for the Ally 400 with driver interviews, reports, and all 3 days of racing. It's presented by Richmar Florist, family owned since 1955. Learn more at richmarflorist.com. We are your racing station, 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
What's going on, everybody? It's D-Mase for Zen Sports, the new sports book in Tennessee that brings the cash back to Nashville, or should I say, Cashville, ching ching. New Zen Sports is revolutionizing the way you earn sports betting rewards. On Zen Sports, what you see is what you get. And with their cash reward program, you get a lot of cash. For a welcome bonus, earn an unlimited 5% cash back on your betting volume for your first 15 days when you sign up with the code D-Mason. That's D-M-A-S-O-N. That's right, unlimited 5% cash back. Keep betting and keep earning with up to 3% cash back on your betting volume every month after that. And refer friends to earn a percentage of their betting volume as cash rewards as well. Zen Sports is bringing the cash back to Tennessee. So if you bet big on sports, you want to be betting on Zen Sports. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 years of age or older in Tennessee to bet. Gambling problems, call 1-800-889-9789. That's Zen Sports. Betting just got better.
Hear that? That's Jeff Anderson. He's that guy in your neighborhood that's always making improvements to his house, his car, his yard. On your street, it's about keeping up with the Andersons. One thing you don't know is Jeff's tools are from Harbor Freight. Tools at great prices. That circular saw right there, you wouldn't believe the deal he got. Just think, when you're keeping up with the Andersons, you're saving money. Whatever you do it for less at Harbor Freight.
This year, escape to Land Between the Lakes for an exciting day trip away from home, only an hour and a half northwest of Nashville. They have over 170,000 acres of forest and wetlands on a peninsula in western Kentucky and Tennessee. Hiking, camping, fishing, kayaking, canoeing, outdoor learning, you name it. Land Between the Lakes is where you want to be.
Get up close and personal with wildlife at the Woodlands Nature Station. Take a scenic drive through the elk and bison prairie. Visit the 1850s home place working farm and see what life was like over 170 years ago.
Plan your adventure at landbetweenthelakes.us.
Mom, we're out of potato chips.
Teenagers, they'll eat you out of house and home, kind of like health insurance, which can take a big bite out of the family budget. Fortunately, with Farm Bureau Health Plan's Core Choice coverage, we can save $3,600 a year compared to the leading competitor. And we've got better coverage with a lower premium, lower deductible, free telehealth visits, and access to one of the largest networks available.
Can we order pizza?
Visit FBHP.com or your local Farm Bureau office today.
Because we work so hard for our customers, people are driving for hours to shop at Genesis Diamonds right now, taking advantage of the lowest interest rate on the planet. 0 interest for 5 years with nothing down. How about a $6,000 GIA certified diamond for just $100 a month? Pear shapes, rounds, even oval diamonds are all included. You can even finance the sales tax. All designer jewelry and all lab-grown diamonds included. Don't miss this amazing opportunity. 5 years, 0 interest financing, exclusively at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. Approved credit, see store for details.
The sports talk doesn't end on Friday. Join Michelle Knezovic and Junie Riddle for Michelle and Junie.
As long as he wants to coach there, he will be able to coach there.
I think that really did save the hope of this team.
Michelle and Junie, presented by Superbook Sports, every Saturday morning at 9 on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. Having some fun in the midday.
Okay, that's really fun.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
It's a good source of energy because it's live.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, coming up on June 28th at 6 o'clock p.m. It is draft night in Smashville. We've got Robbie Stanley, our very own Willy Donick, Max Hers, and Chase McCabe live from Bridgestone Arena for the 2023 NHL Draft. Willy, got some good stuff in store for June 28th?
It's going to be great. I think we're going to have a blast. Robbie and I and Chris Mason had some coverage last year, but I was at the draft 20 years ago. And it's one of the greatest drafts of all time in 2003. It's so much different in Nashville. It's so much different when the draft is in the city. And the only other draft I covered in person was in Chicago in 2017 with Justin Bradford and Jeremy Gover, who drove up the day of the game. I was getting updates. They were, I don't know, they were in traffic. They were stopped in Cincinnati. They had a lot of adventures getting up there, but they eventually made it. We had a great time there. When you're at the draft, it's a blast. I really feel like it's going to be must listen to radio. And
Totally.
I had a person this morning tweet me, and I think it's a great idea. Like I think a lot of fans who are there, bring a headset if you want to be listening into.
That'd be great.
To what we're doing, because I think we're going to have some good insights. We're going to have interviews of the players that the Predators draft. If there's a trade or anything like that, we're going to be all over that. And I think there will be some trades. I don't know if it'll be directly the Predators, but I wouldn't rule it out for sure.
We have
so we're going to be all over that stuff. Yeah, we're going to be all over it.
Best insight, not just in the city, but in the league.
Absolutely.
No doubt.
Looking forward to
in
it.
The
It
world,
absolutely is.
Craig, in the world.
In the
okay?
world. In the world. Absolutely will be Must Listen Radio. That is June 28th, next Wednesday. Got a bunch of your phones to get to, and I do want to get to those. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHunter.com. Little breaking news out of the NFL. No D-Hop news. This might be better, though. This is an article put out by Pro Football Talk. The headline is Aaron Rodgers speaking at Psychedelics Conference.
Okay.
That's fitting. That's
right
fitting.
On.
Yeah,
right
absolutely.
on.
Where is
par.
this? Can we set the scene?
Would you like to guess?
San Francisco?
Good guess. Good guess.
Okay.
Is it so?
Not-
is it in California?
It's not in California,
Oh.
but that does seem like an
Arizona.
event that would happen in San Francisco.
Okay, let me see. Arizona.
Right area of
Amsterdam?
the country. No. Another good place for a psychedelic
Colorado,
conference.
Denver.
Denver. It's happening in
Denver. Okay.
I feel like you could just go through, Denver, Portland, San Francisco.
I was Derek's coordinator there telling
Yes.
in his ear.
This is apparently the largest psychedelic conference in history. I don't know how many psychedelic conferences have happened in history, but this is the biggest one. It advocates for therapeutic use of psychedelics, and Aaron Rodgers will be speaking about his experience with ayahuasca.
How fitting.
In all seriousness, that is
Yeah.
becoming a bigger thing of what's the best therapy for pain and things
Yeah.
like that, as opposed to the medicine, the narcotics kind of thing. Like
Right.
it's funny to when you hear psychedelics, you conjure up these images, and Aaron Rodgers is not too far. You can really it's easy to think of him in those settings.
Yeah.
But I do I remember Derek Morgan on the Titans talking about this type of thing, right? It's what's better, what's the better way if you're going to go down, if you need to manage pain, manage mental stuff. I mean, there's kind of a new wave of thinking.
Yeah.
Right? It's not so crazy. Like 15 years ago, this would have sounded like the craziest thing ever.
Like we were on ayahuasca.
Like the
talking
Jets
about
would
it.
have been like, no, you're not going to this. You're not doing this.
It's not
right?
against the league
Right.
policies to do ayahuasca,
Yeah.
nor is it against the league policy to talk about doing ayahuasca.
No, I think it's more so. I think guys are more so taking the holistic approach.
There's so
when
many
it comes
horrendous
to
horror
their
stories.
therapy.
Yeah.
Because of the addiction to opiates and other pain meds that is distributed, carefully by the NFL, but it's still distributed. And sometimes these guys get so reliant on it. So they want to try to find other means that they can sort of help their body, help their, as Marshawn Lynch would call it, your mentals. Help your mentals. I'm not opposed to it. Whatever is going to help put you in the best place mentally. It's a good thing, because we see too much stuff going on, and too many people having mental problems. If you can find you a way to sort of, curb that or find a good way where you can be stable from a mental aspect, then do it.
I'm all for it.
Yeah.
I like that the NFL has opened its mind a little bit.
Totally.
Since Derek Morgan brought it up, it was fairly controversial when he brought it up, but that wasn't that long ago. I'm trying to think, maybe 5 years ago?
Yeah, because
maybe?
Derek Morgan, he just retired not too long ago.
So that wasn't that long, but I think just even the last year or two, even the league has kind of said, okay, we probably need to be more open-minded about it, be more progressive in our thinking.
Yeah.
And it happens on the same day where, like, hey, we also need to reinforce this gambling policy we have.
That too.
We need to let the players know that, hey, we're taking the money from all the betting sites, and that's great, and that's probably good for you guys, but you guys don't need to be betting.
Yeah.
Right. You can do ayahuasca all you want, but just don't bet.
Just don't bet.
Just don't bet.
But
don't
like,
bet.
think about how crazy that sounds compared to what the NFL might have said in their public positioning 10 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's
totally different.
The NFL and just overall, I think, as a society, how open everyone is to being so progressive. I mean, think about 5 to 10 years ago, a player smoking weed was like the worst
you
thing
couldn't talk about
that you could ever do.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're a bad guy if you smoke weed. Now, who cares?
Yes.
Now it's illegal. So you may have fun, do your thing.
Do your thing.
Yeah, it's definitely not a performance-enhancing drug.
No.
Let's get into some of your thoughts. Our phone lines are driven by WilsonCountyHonda.com. Josh in Kentucky texts in, say, folks need to go back and watch some of Burks' highlights at Arkansas. He was that dude at Arkansas. He was running all over SEC defenses, so he got some athleticism. I know that this is the NFL, and he's got to do it at the next level, but he's definitely not trash. That being said, the Titans do need a veteran presence in that room.
Yeah, I agree with that. My prediction always has been with Treylon Burks is you will see a different guy from year 1 to year 2. I don't think many people understand what actually goes on in year 1 for a rookie receiver or just a rookie in general. So much stuff that they have to just do and worry about, and it's just so much going through their head that first year. So you may not get the actual player that you thought you were getting that first year, because of so many things going on with that player. And I'm not talking about bad things. I'm just talking about getting used to the NFL, conditioning your body the way it needs to be conditioned.
Learning the offense
and everything. So that second year is usually the year where you see a tremendous growth in just about any player, not just the receiver, but just about any player. Why? Because he gets comfortable. He knows the offense, just like when you were as a freshman in college. Even if you didn't play sports, a freshman in college, what was it? You probably didn't have your best year that freshman year or that freshman semester, because there were so many things you were still getting used to. But then once you figured out what college life was really about, that second year, usually you saw a jump in your GPA. If you really committed to your studies, you saw a jump in that GPA and everything else. You saw a jump in your friendships and everything else. So that second year with anybody is going to be a critical year. You're going to see that maturity and that progression from year 1 to year 2. So I'm not worried about Treylon Burks, honestly.
And that maturity and the progression, I think, is what the Titans need from Treylon Burks.
Exactly.
And it's what Treylon Burks needs to do himself to prove himself. Mm-hmm. 615-737-1025. Down go the Vols by the hands of my Tigers.
You couldn't wait.
I could not wait. But Joe Rexrode had an interesting column in The Athletic, kind of recapping this whole season with Tennessee baseball and how it ended. Do we agree with Joe? We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
94.9 The Fan is your home for Hit City.
Your Nashville Sounds continue their 6-game series at First Horizon Park tonight against Norfolk.
Swing and a miss, strike 3. Sounds win.
Pre-game at 6:20.
On your home of Nashville Sounds baseball. 94.9 The Fan and The Fan app.
ElectronicExpress.com. We make it happen.
Attention all fire and safety line experts. Middle Tennessee's fastest growing fire protection company is looking for experienced service technicians, designers, and sprinkler system experts like you. Tired of working for a large corporate employer? Work for a company where you're more than just a number. Jarrett Fire Protection is owned and operated by Nashville natives and wants to invite you to grow with their amazing team.
Hi, I'm Jason Jarrett, owner of Jarrett Companies. I'm looking to hire experienced sprinkler experts and will offer a sign-on bonus of up to $5,000 for certified professionals. In addition to our great benefits that include a 401k match, PTO, and top pay with annual bonuses, we will also provide you with the top-of-the-line tools, trucks, and equipment that you need to grow your career. Our customer base is large and business is booming with many opportunities for advancement. Give us a call or go online to jarrettfire.com and apply today to become a member of our family and protect our community. That's JARRETT fire.com. Jarrett Companies, where we are above and beyond industry standards.
Get a great deal on one of the most versatile tractors in the industry, the Kubota BX, which is part of Kubota's tractor lineup rated #1 in durability and owner experience. Stop by Krebs Kubota today and bring home select BX series equipment for 0 down, 0% APR for up to 72 months, plus save up to $800. Now through June 30th, see Krebs Kubota or go to KubotaUSA.com for more details. Krebs Kubota, Middle Tennessee's preferred equipment dealer. Columbia, Franklin, and Murfreesboro. Online at KrebsKubota.com. Catch all the NASCAR action this weekend on 102.5 The Game, Nashville's racing station, brought to you by Richmar Florists. Catch the action Friday with the NASCAR Truck Series. Then Saturday, the NASCAR Xfinity Series and the Ally 400 Cup Series Sunday. Richmar Florists, Pennsylvania built, Tennessee strong.
Now, your Game Center update.
Brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. The Tennessee Volunteers season came to a close out on the diamond last night, losing 5-0 to the LSU Tigers. Tennessee ends the year 44-22 overall. Here's what head coach Tony Vitello had to say after the loss.
I think it was a competitive group. They can hang their hat on the fact that, we talked about perspective. There's a variety of tradition within each program. It takes a lot in our league to be able to brag about tradition. But for us in particular, we wanted to get to a regional, and then we wanted to have a roster that was really athletic that you guys would be excited to write about.
Meanwhile, in the NHL, goaltender Connor Hellebuck has drawn interest from the New Jersey Devils, according to a report from Pierre LeBrun. Hellebuck is a Vezina Trophy finalist with his future in question, playing for the Winnipeg Jets. And the Nashville Sounds are back in action tonight at 6:20 p.m., taking on the Norfolk Tides. Last night's game was rained out, but the doubleheader will take place on Thursday. This update is brought to you by the law offices of Amanda J. Gentry. You're listening to 102.5 and 106.3 The Game.
For more, follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game or visit thegamenashville.com. Live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Studios. WPRT-FM Pegram, WPUC HD2 Laverne. Nashville's exclusive home for the Nashville Predators. 102.5 and 106.3.
79-52 Vanderbilt. And I think he's going to coach up by Cheryl.
You're going to see more moves.
The Game.
A Cromwell Media Station.
Covering your teams and the news of the day.
Ladies and gentlemen.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase.
Who is pleasant to listen to.
With Caroline Fenton, Willy Donick, and former NFL wide receiver Derek Mason.
You are hands down my favorite radio personalities of all time.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
With no further ado,
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. We're live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios, streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. Our video streaming is brought to you by Superbook. Download their app today and use promo code THEGAME. The Vols ended their season last night, got shut out.
By who?
By the LSU Tigers. And let me just say, to all of the Vols fans that texted into our text line yesterday and said, Caroline, are you ready to lose again? To all the Vols fans that were in my Twitter mentions when I was talking about how sad I was when LSU lost to Wake Forest on Tuesday. How do you like me now?
How you like those apples?
How do you like those apples? But I'm not going to do my victory lap.
Uh-huh.
The work is not over. The job is not done. Got 2 more games to win before you get to the College World Series final. But Tennessee ends their season in Omaha, and Joe Rexrode put out a piece in The Athletic about kind of a recap of the season. And there was one part of this piece that Joe put out, a very well put together, very, thought-provoking piece from Joe Rexrode, said, in light of a preseason number 2 ranking and some of this team's individual performances, this season was disappointing. That's where this program is now. The Tennessee baseball has never had renewable excellence like this. Do we agree? Do we think that this was a disappointing season for the Tennessee Vols?
Well, I'm going to stay consistent with what I say about really any team, and that is no. I never think it's disappointing when you make the College World Series. I understand Joe's point that the bar is higher, and that's to the credit of Tony Vitello. He's taken the program to where the expectation level is to win big now, and it's not just to have a good season. It's to win the whole thing. I get that, but I think you have to keep perspective, though, at how hard it is to win a national championship in anything, but also in baseball. If you played the tournament over with the same 8 teams, Tennessee, they might find their way through and have won a couple of these games. I think they're that close, but that's just how baseball works. And I'm going to ask the same type of question I asked the Tennessee fans after the basketball season ended. Remember how lost their team looked at a certain point towards the end of the regular season. And I sort of said that if you took it on that date and pick whatever date you thought was the low point, because there was a lot of real frustrated Tennessee fans down the stretch where they had gone from number 2, number 3 in the country, might be able to win the whole thing, to what's wrong with these guys?
Right.
I would have said, okay, take it right now. If I told you right now they would beat Duke and make it to the to the Sweet 16, would you take it? I think a lot of people would have said, yeah. And by the same token, for this baseball team, if I'd have told you in the middle of the season when they were getting their hat handed to them by some of the best teams in the country, but their record in the league was, I think, 5-10.
Through the half of conference play.
I think 5-10. If I'd have told you on that date, they will make it to the College World Series.
I wouldn't have believed you.
I think a Tennessee fan would say, sign me up. I'll take it. Just get me to Omaha, and I'll say that's a good year. Like, remember, they were also one strike away from going into the losers bracket at Clemson and had a tremendous comeback in maybe the game of the year in college baseball.
Went like 27 innings.
Like, they were on the brink. If they lose that game, then you're really going to have a conversation of, oh, man, lost in the regional. What is going on? We're going backwards. But this team made it to the College World Series and had to do it going on the road. That's a really good year. That's nothing close to a disappointment in my mind.
No, I don't. I guess it just depends on what's your definition of a disappointing season. I mean, everybody has sort of their definition. I'm sure UT, there was some disappointment in their season considering what they did last year and the talent they had coming back. So they expected to be better than they were, and it didn't work out that way. But, what is the whole objective? Is to get into the college baseball World Series, right? They were able to do that. They ended up having wins over Clemson, Southern Miss, Stanford. So they were able to beat some good teams. Now, were there, people within the program or students that, expected them to win a World Series? Probably so, yeah, considering who, their head coach and the players that they have and what they have done, 2 of the last 3 seasons. Absolutely. But it didn't happen. But it's not like they just played disappointing baseball. They beat some good teams, and they got beat by some good teams. Most recently, yesterday, when they got beat by LSU. Mm-hmm. LSU was just a better team. But I don't look at that as a total disappointment. Now, are we disappointed that we didn't make it? Obviously, yes, we are. But it's not a situation where I'm just sitting here soaking like, oh, man, our program is done because we didn't make it to the final game. No, we still have a lot of talent on this team, still got a damn good coach, a program that seems to be headed up. So I look at it as more so a setback, a minor setback, not necessarily a disappointment, but a minor setback. We retool, do some things in the offseason, and we expect to be at this same point next year. I mean, in the College World Series next year. And then after that, once you get in there, anything can happen.
Right, and you keep taking your swings. If you keep putting yourself in a position where you have a good team that's good enough to win, at some point you're going to have that year where you get a little bit lucky and you're that good and put it all together. That's what it takes to win the whole thing. You have to be really good, but you have to be a little bit lucky too, and just play great at the great time. That's hard to do in baseball. Now, was it disappointing last night that they couldn't put any runs on the board against lower level? No offense to the LSU guys. Those guys came up big. Like LSU sitting there saying, hey, we had some guys step up in a big game that hadn't really done it all year. That's how you win in Omaha, right? That's what it takes sometimes to beat other great teams. So Tennessee's got to be thinking, man, we had a chance to eliminate LSU. We still have the pitching depth that we can go attack Wake Forest, and maybe we could pull it off. But they couldn't score against pitchers that were, for LSU standards, a little below.
Pitchers, yes.
Not guys. You're not facing Ben McDonald or Paul Bird, some of the great guys they've had through the years, right. Aaron Nola. But those guys, to their credit, they pitched great when they had to.
I felt that if that game had stayed 2-0 going into the latter innings after, the sixth inning or fifth or sixth inning, that I think the pressure was going to get on LSU as it did the game before.
Agreed.
That game was close, and it just seemed like the pitching just went totally left.
Yeah.
But that errant throw opened up some room for leeway.
Opened up momentum in
exactly.
LSU's
It was like,
at that point.
whew, I'm glad that happened because if they go into later innings, it's too. I think the pressure is on LSU now.
You need those insurance runs.
Exactly.
But I agree with you guys. I think there's a difference between being disappointed and having a disappointing season. Because I see where Joe is coming from. That look where Tennessee baseball is at this point. 5 years ago, talking about being disappointed by finishing 5th in the nation, I mean, Tennessee fans would probably say, you're lying. Our baseball team stinks. Now they're in a position where going to Omaha is the expectation. But they were the preseason number 2 overall team, and they finished 5th. I don't think that's a disappointment. And I would even make the argument that being the preseason number 2 team in the country was an overranking for Tennessee. Because Tennessee lost basically every single defensive starter and like 5 of their top 6 hitters going into the season from last year. That's really hard to replace, even in the transfer portal era, when you're working with a lot of young guys.
When they have a stable of NIL money, which they use. I mean, that's where Tennessee is really ahead of the curve and in a good position. This bodes well for future years, too, because it's no secret. If you follow college baseball, there's not a lot of programs in college baseball that have a war chest of NIL funds. It just doesn't happen for many baseball programs. Now, in the SEC, they got some teams. They got some teams.
Right.
And it's an attractive place to play. That's where the best players want to play. But I think they were out in front, and LSU's right there.
Yeah.
Too. They do the same thing. And more power to them. It's legal. You know, you got to do it the right way. You know, they got in trouble. One of their guys that they enticed, they went a little too far, and he was ineligible for a while. Their shortstop. But so he's going to walk the line. I mean, and he's pushing the envelope, which is what a lot of winning programs do. There's going to be some I mean, there's some stories going on. There's some people that were committed that don't even make the team, and they're gone. Like, they were committed from the time they were sophomores in high school, and it's hard to get on the field. You know, that's the depth that you need sometimes to win, and you got to be careful that you're not having too many catastrophic stories where people don't want to go there. Right? So that's the line you walk when you're trying to build a championship roster. It's no different at LSU, especially a lot of the big-time state schools.
Right.
It's tough. You know, the depth is what you need, right? You might have pitchers like last night for LSU. Sometimes you win the championship or you come close because you have enough pitching to where a guy that hasn't pitched much all year long is needed to win those games, the biggest games. It's unique to really anything else. It doesn't happen in college basketball, right? You don't need that kind of depth. If you have 3 or 4 great players, that might be enough to carry you. In baseball, you have to have the pitching depth, and for a lot of the season, you don't necessarily need those guys, but in the postseason, you do.
I have like an Omaha checklist of things that I think can create a championship team in Omaha. And a guy that's kind of low in the bullpen, who's not a consistent starter, stepping up and being nails when you need him to be, is on that checklist.
Absolutely.
And that's exactly what LSU got last night. So to Joe Rexro's article, I get it. I understand that Tennessee fans are disappointed that going home and leaving Omaha and that dream of winning a national championship, that's not alive where they are right now. But I don't think that you can call it a disappointing season, because when Tennessee was getting swept and losing series became the norm in the first half of the season, I think you would take Omaha. And I think that you would take the performance that you saw against Stanford the other day when LSU I keep doing that. Tennessee was down 4-0 and they ultimately win 6-4 because they got a great performance from Chase Burns. Those are the kind of things that I think that Tennessee fans can hang their hat on and be excited for next year. It's a young team. They had a lot of young guys be able to step up. And if Tony Vitello has shown you anything, it's that he's going to get you there. Can you continue to build forward and continue to build that program? So I don't think that Tennessee fans can call this a disappointing season. But to be disappointed, I get it. Yeah. I really do. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We'll get your thoughts on that, plus some other College World Series thoughts, because I think somebody just got a really, really lucky deal. And Willy mentioned it. Sometimes Omaha takes a little bit of luck. I think this team got a whole lot of luck. And we'll get into that coming up next. And also your College World Series thoughts as well. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase is brought to you by the new Zen Sports Sportsbook with cash rewards and the easiest, simplest betting experience possible. Betting just got better. Download the Zen Sports Sportsbook app today. 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
Every day we are live and local.
It's no longer about Johansson and Duchesne.
Mike Vrabel was his guy. He wanted him to be his coach.
And your source for Nashville sports.
They had missed the playoffs.
It will help them get better players.
We are Nashville's best sports talk. 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Gear up for spring at Coleman Tractor Company with Kubota zero turns and subcompact tractors in stock now and ready to work. Mow, dig, haul, and lift with the Kubota BX23S tractor loader backhoe. Now through June 30th, save up to $2,500 on BX23S models. Visit Coleman Tractor in Paris, Clarksville, Nashville, and White House today. Now through June 30th. See KubotaUSA.com for more information.
Seems like everything costs more these days. Food, utilities, medical costs, you name it. But as prices go up, our family budget stays the same. Fortunately, with Farm Bureau Health Plan's Core Choice coverage, we can save $3,600 a year compared to the leading competitor. And we've got better coverage with a lower premium, lower deductible, free telehealth visits, and access to one of the largest networks available. Start saving today at FBHP.com or visit your local Farm Bureau office.
Meet Joe A,
Hi.
Joe B,
Hello.
and Joe C.
What's up?
3 everyday Joes perfecting their banking with Chase. Joe A is locking his lost debit card with the Chase mobile app. Joe B is cruising toward his new ride with AutoSave. And Joe C's Chase banker is helping him budget to go back to school. Tools that help protect, support for what's next. One bank that puts you in control. Visit chase.com/checking. Chase. Make more of what's yours.
Chase mobile app is available for select mobile devices. Messaging and data rates may apply. JP Morgan Chase Bank, N.A. member FDIC.
We try to stay cool by being on social media.
I'm with it. I'm hip.
Follow us on Twitter at 1025 The Game and on Instagram at 1025 The Game Nashville.
Hey!
Oh, yeah, and like us on Facebook, too. Having some fun in the midday.
Yeah, it's awesome.
This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 1025 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game, and the Game Nashville app. We are live from the Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electrical Game Studios. Streaming live on Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook Live every single day. College World Series action today. Florida is just about to start. TCU, right?
They already hit a dinger in the first inning.
Where have I been?
Florida got off to a good start. Scored 2 in the top of the first. They are 1 win away from the final, which would complete my ticket to the bank from F&M Bank on Friday. They have had 2 nail biters that they've hung on, and it's been, I think, more of a struggle than I thought it would be. Florida clearly had the better side of the bracket to be on than LSU or Tennessee, who had Wake Forest to deal with and a really good Stanford team. Mm-hmm. Florida was clearly better than the other teams, and now nothing against TCU. They're a good team, but Florida, 2 shots to beat them once. I like their chances to advance to the final. And they're up 2-0 in the bottom of the first, and they've got a guy. This guy's an absolute beast on the mound. 2-way player.
Beast. He is a Shohei Ohtani of college baseball.
Yes.
Jack Caglione. He is an outstanding player for Florida. Jack Caglione.
Caglione.
You like that?
It's a cool last name.
It is a cool last name. And that is exactly my point, Willy. And I never want to say that, their path is easy, because once you get to Omaha, it's never easy. The teams that you're playing are all very competitive teams. It is a grind. You're playing either every day or every other day. Your pitching starts to dwindle. Everybody's sore. You've been hit by the injury bug. It is hard once you've gotten to this point in Omaha. But of course, Florida gets the easier side of the bracket. Like, of course. I mean, Tennessee, Wake Forest, LSU, and Stanford. I think you can make an argument that those are the 4 best teams in college baseball.
Gauntlet right
or
there.
3 of the 4 best teams in college baseball. And that is no disrespect to TCU, no disrespect to Oral Roberts, and no disrespect to Virginia, because they're all good teams. It is just such a very clear, lopsided sides of the bracket. And I don't know what it is, if it's just the fact that my team is on the harder side or that it's freaking Florida that gets the easier side of the bracket. But of course it's Florida. Of course. Yeah. And they're a good team. Florida is a good team, and they've earned their way if they do punch their ticket to the finals today.
Yeah, yesterday we talked about the format of college football's playoff. Nick Saban said some thoughts of what should be the way to select the 12 teams. This has come up in the past in college basketball, is at some point should you reseed in the middle of the tournament? Like, remember the NHL, and I don't remember if they did this in the NBA at one point. I don't think they do it anymore.
I think they talked about it.
But the NHL used to reseed. Whoever wins the first round, then the best team plays the lowest remaining seed, and so on. So what happened here in college baseball doesn't happen, right? It talked about this in the Final Four as well. Should you reseed college basketball when you get to the Final Four? There's been an argument on each side. It would mess up all your bracket competitions and everything. That's part of the reason I think the NHL went with the straight-up bracket. It's easier to follow. It's easier for casual fans to jump in on. But what it does is it creates a possibility that this happens. The draw opens up, and you don't have to play nearly as tough a road. Some of the criticism of the Nuggets, if you're trying to criticize a championship, remember the guy in Philadelphia took a lot of heat. He got on awful announcing because he was saying, hey, they beat 2 8 seeds and a 7 seed to win, so they were fortunate. And sometimes that happens.
Yeah.
You don't apologize.
No, I mean,
it's like those people who used to tell me at Vanderbilt, they won 9 football games, but the SEC was down that year. I don't care. They won 9 games, man. I watched them with 0, 1, 2. They won 9, man. I'm not apologizing for anything. I don't care.
And you shouldn't. And I don't think Florida fans should apologize. And if I was a Florida fan, or if my team was in Florida shoes, I would say, well, sorry. We've just got to play the teams on our side of the bracket.
Sometimes you got to be a little lucky, right?
And that is exactly it. You mentioned it in the last segment. And you don't get to Omaha just purely on luck. You got to be a good team. You got to be a deep team. You've got to be an incredibly competitive team. But in Omaha, sometimes you do have to be a little bit lucky. Sometimes you just get the luck of the draw where you are Florida, and the only thing standing in your way between a College World Series final is TCU, Virginia, and Oral Roberts, when the other side of the gauntlet is Stanford, Wake Forest, LSU, 2 of the teams that were number 1 overall at some point in the season, and then Tennessee. That's just kind of luck. Sometimes you get lucky where if you play at a certain time of the day where the sun is right over left field, you might get some balls that get dropped that wouldn't normally get dropped because the sun's just working in your favor. Little minute things like that just bugs me. It's Florida.
Well, I just had this discussion with Derek, and he wasn't having it. He just shut down when I said, hey, I just watched Super Bowl 34, and I saw 10 things. If they had maybe if the ball bounces the other way or if this happened, he's like, I don't want to hear it. I'm not watching it. I don't care. But I think sometimes fans and all of us that watch sports, sometimes I'm not sure they comprehend how hard it is to win the whole thing, because when you think back on these little things that could tip a game, like baseball is full of those. They always say the game of inches, right? A hard ground ball that's hit well, but happens to be hit right at a guy and it turns a double play. So if the ball is hit 5 feet to either side, it's through for a hit and it's a run. Instead, it's a double play. That's how baseball is. It's full of things like that. And there's other sports that hockey's got a ton of things like that. A shot that hits a guy right in the rear end, right? The guy did nothing. It goes off of his butt and it goes into the net. He's a hero. He didn't do anything. He just hit him in the hip or the butt. But that's the bounce. Sometimes there's a randomness.
Butt gives you. Sometimes you get a butt fumble and your butt takes it away from you.
Exactly.
Got to be careful.
Well, it happened yesterday, and I think it was the LSU game where they had the line drive right at the shortstop, and it sort of hit right before it got to him, and then end up bouncing past him because it was coming at him at such a fast rate that he couldn't get his. It was just an awkward position for him, which caused LSU to be able to get on base and to score their runs. I think it was in the inning where they ended up getting the error, and Tennessee ended up throwing it away and caused them to ultimately win the game at that juncture because I think they were up 1-0 or 2-0, and then after all that sequence, they end up being up 4-0, somewhere around there. So you're right. It's just sometimes it is the bounce, literally the bounce of the ball. And sometimes it could bounce your way, and sometimes it could bounce against you.
Texture in my personal text line. I'll let you guys figure out who you think it is.
Oh, my goodness.
Crimea River, Crybaby Caroline, and Jacksonville Derek.
But that's you get this label sometimes as a team. Can't win the big one, right? But if you look at a lot of the big games on the biggest stage, sometimes it is a little bit of luck that is the difference in winning the big one or he can't win the big one. And sometimes you don't get a chance to come back.
To prove yourself.
To get another chance in the big game.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what you can't take for granted.
Evan texts into our text line. It says, love that you're hating on Florida's path to the College World Series. I'm not hating on their path. I'm just saying Florida got really lucky. And it is, I think, a fact that one side of the bracket was less competitive than the other. And hey, good for Florida. I mean, if I'm a Florida fan, I'm probably looking at this and feeling a whole lot more confident about my path to the College World Series final. More power to you. I am hating on Florida. 100%.
Well, you have the right to hate on Florida.
But I'm not hating on their path. That's the path. They didn't choose it.
But I'm sure a lot of Florida fans, once they looked at their bracket, they were like, whew, glad we ain't got to be over there with those other teams. So you realize it just as we realize it.
Right.
And it is what it is.
It is what it is. And sometimes it works in your favor.
Yeah.
Sometimes it absolutely works against you. But, I mean, that's just, it is what it is. Quick College World Series thought. There was a clip, and I don't have it available, but there was a Wake Forest player at the end of the LSU game that said basically, I don't think there's anyone in the world that can beat us.
Man.
Do you agree?
Well, that's pretty confident for a team that has been behind most of the two games, tied or behind, and they have led for, what did you say yesterday, maybe 2 innings? Like they took the lead late in both games.
2 half innings in both the games they've played.
I mean, razor's edge kind of stuff. So I wouldn't be that confident. I wouldn't be that confident. Now, as we had Mitch Light on, the story of Wake Forest, the reason they're number one is they have tremendous pitching depth.
Great pitching.
And they've had to play only 2 games. So they're in great position.
And they've earned the right to play only 2 games. They've won the games that they've needed to win.
That's double elimination tournament kind of stuff, right? There's an advantage to staying in that winner's bracket. So LSU's going to have another great performance of guys. And Wake Forest has not impressed me too much offensively. Needless to say. Now, they were in the Super Regional. Derek texted, like, has Wake Forest, did I see this, 9 home runs? Like, they scored like 22 runs in the last game against Alabama, who's no slouch, right? But so they can hit. They haven't hit in the tournament. But if you can get to Skeens, if you can just, like, that's LSU's thing, right? Just get me to Skeens.
Get me to Skeens. That's
they have
all
a
I
chance.
need. That's all I need. And look, Wake Forest is a hell of a team. They are a really good team. Offensively, pitching-wise, they're a really good team. I've just watched enough baseball in Omaha to know that nobody is unbeatable. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We've got a bunch of texts in our text line, so we'll get into those coming up next. Plus, what Vegas has to say about DeAndre Hopkins. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3, The Game.
The cup has been raised.
In their 6th National Hockey League season, the Vegas Golden Knights have won the Stanley Cup.
And the offseason can officially begin. What's next for the Nashville Predators?
The Preds really haven't had a pure goal scorer. We got a lot of picks for next year.
Andrew Brunette, what about his coaching?
We are your home for Smashville. 102.5 and 106.3, The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, Ray Jeter here with Harness. Are you looking to take ownership in a position that will support your growth and development? We are an excavation and site utilities contractor. Several things set us apart from our competition, but we take the most pride in the professional development of our people. We have multiple openings for operators, pipe layers, and laborers. Our pay and benefits are second to none, including our 401k program. Apply today at selectharness.com. Harness LLC. Build people, move dirt.
Richmar Florist is family-owned and operated since 1955 and one of the top 100 florist companies in the country, providing their customers with quality flowers sourced from around the world and handcrafted floral arrangements. Richmar Florist is a proud sponsor of NASCAR and the Nashville Superspeedway, proudly serving the stars of NASCAR, IndyCar, and Hollywood, such as Elton John, Ozzy Osbourne, Alexander Rossi, Dale Earnhardt Jr., and many more. Learn more at richmarflorist.com. Richmar Florist, Pennsylvania-based, Tennessee strong.
This is Evan Bass for the Tennessee Men's Clinic. For most of us, sex is a big part of our relationship. So when something like erectile dysfunction starts affecting intimacy, it can be a real problem. But what you may not know is that ED doesn't just affect you, it can be tough on your partner as well. Plus, if you have ED, you know how it can make you feel. The truth is, we see a lot of guys who have depression, frustration, and even relationship issues because of ED. But we don't want ED to impact you or the one you love anymore. The Tennessee Men's Clinic tackles ED. Our urologists and medical providers take a comprehensive approach and have treated thousands of men with treatments that are successful in nearly 90% of cases. Even if your hormones are off, or if pills, wave therapy, or other treatments have left you hanging, the Tennessee Men's Clinic will work hard to help you get your sex life back, perhaps performing like you haven't in a long time. So call us. Your first appointment includes blood work and a medical consult. Call 615-208-9090 or go to TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. We have 2 offices in Midtown and Franklin.
Visit our website to learn more, including side effects. Treatments extra, results vary.
Hey, it's John Tesh. You want to know how to get better rates, better coverage, and better service on your home and auto insurance? Work with Zander Insurance. I know it's a big promise, but this team delivers. They've been around for almost 100 years and have earned the privilege of representing dozens of insurance companies so they can shop, compare, and find you the best options available. More options mean more savings, and in many cases, better coverage. But it doesn't stop there. Each year, they review your coverage to make sure your rates stay competitive. Nobody else does that. And when it comes to service, just check out their ratings. Zander is one of the top agencies in the industry, and they earned that spot with their commitment to making sure their clients are taken care of like family. That's what sets them apart. Go to Zander.com for quick online quotes or call 800-356-1780 for that personal touch that you've been missing.
With the first pick in the NBA draft.
The next generation of the NBA takes center stage.
I can't believe what just happened.
With the NBA draft. Our coverage begins tomorrow night at 6.
On 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Hey, this is Roman Yossi. You're listening to Nashville's best sports talk. ESPN 102.5 The Game.
Here's the other thing, just briefly. You mentioned Hall of Fame. Mm-hmm. If DeAndre Hopkins wants to be a Hall of Famer, he's right there. Okay, he'll be debated. But if he wants to be a Hall of Famer, doesn't he go sign with Kansas City or Buffalo right now?
I think that's what he's waiting for, honestly. And I've told
the numbers
and
are coming. It's not coming back to the Titans. The numbers are going down towards Kansas City and Buffalo. That's the way I look at that. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think New England, with the most space, is going to have to make a better offer that's a little more than whatever Buffalo is going to come in top dollar and offer also the case of winning a Super Bowl. Same for Kansas City. Because I'm looking at what's going on in Kansas City at their wide receiving core, and they'll make anything work, but they can make Hopkins look like a first ballot guy if they want to.
Well, let's tie it together.
Again, those are all things to consider for what he wants. And honestly, all he's wanted so far is just to take some free agent visits, and there were only 2 of them that have been reported.
That was Jonathan Hutton, Hot Mike with Hutton and Withrow on our show earlier on the DeAndre Hopkins sweepstakes. And we have some developments. This put out here on Pro Football Talk that there are some Vegas odds shifts in the eventual landing spot for DeAndre Hopkins. About 2 or so weeks ago, when at that point the Titans were the only team that had scheduled a visit with DeAndre Hopkins, the Titans had the best odds to land DeAndre Hopkins, which I think is probably fair and to be expected if that's the only team that is on the list of visit destinations. Mm-hmm. But there have been some shifts according to Vegas. The Patriots now have the best odds to land DeAndre Hopkins at plus 100. We want to guess the team with the next best odds.
Cleveland?
Nope. But good guess.
Kansas City.
The Bills. The Bills
are back in the picture.
With the next best odds at plus 350. The Titans have the third best odds at plus 400. The Lions in fourth at plus 500.
The Lions. I've always been fascinated on how some of these websites come up with these props for these particular situations? Like, where's a guy going to sign? Like, how do you go about it? Like, it's hard enough to understand how they come up with the point spreads, which they're really good at.
They are very
which
good
is
at
why
it.
Vegas never loses, right? So you go to Vegas and you see all these big hotels and towers. Like, there's a reason.
There's a reason why Caesar lives there.
They're not losing.
Mm-mm.
Yeah. But how do they do this I mean, is it just word of mouth and buzz, or do they actually have inside info on this? I'm sure it's a combination in some situations. They always say, like, all the people we've brought on in this new world of betting, they said the prop bets are really not a good way to go.
Mm-hmm.
Not that there is a good way to go.
Right.
Eventually, they're probably going to get you, but you really are taking a chance with prop bets. Like, I don't understand why somebody betting on the Gatorade. What color is the Gatorade at the Super Bowl when they shower the coach with the Gatorade? What color is the Gatorade going to be? I would imagine you could get inside info and win that bet if you knew the right people.
Oh,
right?
man. I don't
I've
even
seen
want to, yeah.
tweets that are like, my friend is friends with the cousin of the equipment manager for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they said it's red. Like, okay, great. Thank you so much for that inside info. But that is always what I wonder. Whenever I see either really big odds shifts for a game or prop bet shifts like this, I always think, what does Vegas know? Does Vegas know anything? Or is it simply just reacting to the market? Of all of a sudden, with all of this Stephon Diggs situation and the fact that DeAndre Hopkins didn't sign a contract with either Tennessee or New England, then now are people thinking that the Bills are now the leader in the clubhouse. And that's kind of pushing the odds up a little bit. But I do think it's very interesting. Because I go back to 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, it made sense that the Titans were the leaders in the clubhouse. But I don't understand why, whether there is inside information or public perception, that now the Bills have better odds to land DeAndre Hopkins over Tennessee. Because Albert Breer kind of talked about how Buffalo might not really even make sense.
The problem with Buffalo right now, I know one of their concerns in the beginning was there's only one ball and we have to get it to Stephon Diggs quite a bit. And I would say if that was a concern in April after what happened last week, it would be even more of a concern now. They got a lot of mouths to feed, and it's not just Stephon Diggs. It's how does Dalton Kincaid fit into their offense? What role does Dawson Knox play around that? They got Gabe Davis going into a contract year. So I think beyond just the money, there's that question of how do we bring in a guy who's a volume guy in Hopkins and keep Diggs happy?
So, and that's kind of what I think about too. Stephon Diggs has expressed a lot of frustration about the organization, his usage, his vocal, him being vocal in play calling, the fact that the Bills didn't land DeAndre Hopkins, and they just drafted a pass-catching tight end in the first round to match with Dawson Knox, who also is a very solid weapon in the passing game, with Gabe Davis, with Stephon Diggs. D-Mase, you've said several times that D-Hop is the kind of guy, he's a volume receiver. You get him the ball, you get him the ball early, and you get him the ball often. How does he even fit in the Buffalo Bills offense?
They would have to become, even though they're not a run team now, I couldn't imagine them being, less of a, more of a run team if you add a D-Hop. Because, again, you have to satisfy all these pass catchers that you're paying. And there's a expectation when you go out and you get a Hop along with a Diggs and a Gabe and the Knox and Kincaid. Those, you got legitimate pass catchers, 5 of them. So the expectation is you got to throw the ball a lot. How does that fit into what, Stephon Diggs is sort of disgruntled about? How would that fit in with Hop being a volume guy? He is a volume guy.
He'd have to adjust.
Yeah.
He'd have to adjust.
He can't adjust. He won't adjust. I'm just
telling you. If he can't adjust or won't adjust, then why would the Bills even offer him
that's
anything?
The thing.
Same
why
thing
would
with the
Bills,
Chiefs, really.
Why would the Bills then go down that road? No, the Chiefs are different.
The Chiefs are a different situation. They don't have a Diggs.
Yeah, they don't have a Diggs. They went out and they got some. They went out and got some receivers, but no one with sort of D-Hop's resume in a sense. They went out and got a few receivers, and they had some that they believe can play. But again, nobody with Hop's resume. It's easier for him, I think, if he wants to be that volume guy, if he wants to, sort of have this resurgence year, it would benefit him to go to Kansas City. Sort of like what Kansas City did with Juju Smith-Schuster, which parlayed him into a deal with.
He got another contract.
Yes. Why? Because he was able to be a volume guy with Kansas City. If D-Hop wants to sort of rejuvenate his career while winning a Super Bowl and potentially parlaying that into another contract, then I don't see any other place outside of Kansas City. I don't, because with Kansas City, you get the potential of going to a Super Bowl. You're playing with the best quarterback in the National Football League, and you're going to get the touches. He's going to make sure you get the ball. Andy Reid is going to make sure you get the ball. So you check all of your boxes if you go to Kansas City. The only box you may not be able to check, unless they get a Jones deal done, is the money. Mm-hmm. That's the only box. Now, if that's all you care about, then you're not going to Kansas City right now. You're not. You're going to wait.
Let me throw this at you. Derek, you've said Hall of Fame wide receiver. Do you think if he did not catch another pass, if he doesn't play another game, is he in the Hall of Fame?
I think he's a Hall of Fame player. I think if he doesn't catch another pass, I think he's a Hall of Famer.
But I think there would be debate if he did not play again.
Oh, of course.
Is that fair to say?
Yeah, there will be debate.
There's more and more guys these days in this era that put together high volume seasons, kind of on the level. Like, to me, that's the unique thing about your case. You're in a pocket where you had a long stretch of productivity for winning teams on teams that did not pass the ball very much. Like, it's all context now. That's why I always stress, don't just look at yards and catches. Look at the offense. Look at the era that a guy played in. Like, they're talking about Drew Pearson and Cliff Branch. Much, much different numbers. It's hard to, you got to put that in context when you're comparing those guys, where if you had 1,000 yards in those days, that meant a lot more than 1,000 yards in today's football.
Same way we look at running backs, but vice versa.
Exactly.
Right.
It's tough to compare running back stats now
versus
20 years ago. Yeah.
So let's get back to D-Hop. That thought by Hutton when we had him on earlier today, it was like, okay, if you want a Hall of Fame, if you want to bolster that Hall of Fame resume, there's two ways to do it in my mind. Like, he made the argument of going to a team and winning a championship. There's no question that boosts your profile.
Absolutely.
Certain number of Pro Bowls.
And that's hard. You could have a great year and not win the Super Bowl. Your team could have a great year and lose in the AFC Championship game or the divisional in a really tight razor's edge kind of game. That could happen. Another way you could do it is you could have 2, 3, 4 more really productive years where you work your tail off and you separate yourself from other guys because you are one of those few guys that is productive after the age of 31. So I don't know what his makeup is, but to me it's not as simple as saying, well, just get on a winning team and win a ring. It's hard to do that. Even if you could pick whatever team you want, and basically what you're saying is, I'll take that team over the field. The field's pretty tough in the NFL.
And it's also thinking about how many teams that we thought could have been Super Bowl contenders at the beginning of the season, and we look back and we're like, man, oh man, were we wrong?
What were we thinking?
Like Denver, for example.
Oh, my goodness.
There was talk about Denver.
I
being
had Denver in the playoffs.
In the AFC, and obviously that did not come to fruition. But I think with the Kansas City Chiefs, as long as you got Patrick Mahomes,
you got a chance.
You
got more than a chance.
You got
a chance.
Pretty good chance, but there's no guarantee. There is no guarantee in the NFL. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. We've got a bunch of texts. We've got a potpourri of text messages, so we will get into those coming up next. Plus, we have to hit on one of the wildest things that I heard yesterday. We'll get into that coming up next. Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game.
185! Every team needs a quarterback. 185! That's why we have
Hasselbeck, bootleg, rollout, toss, touchdown.
Tim.
You can run good plays at the right time.
ESPN NFL analyst Tim Hasselbeck gives his expertise on all things NFL.
You evaluate players, and then you're turning them over to the coaching staff.
Every Tuesday at noon.
At the right time.
With Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase. Tim on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Happy hump day out there. And man, I need to talk to you on this Wednesday. I need to tell you about Cool Springs MD. Over the years, more men have started to seek help for hormone deficiencies and imbalances. And Dr. Jeffrey Lodge, along with his wife, Daphne, and that experienced staff give you the treatment required to improve your quality of life. Cool Springs MD services have already helped many men of Brentwood, Nashville, and the surrounding areas in Tennessee with improving their immune systems, energy levels, cognitive functions, and more. They are there to connect you with the medical care you require to have a healthy and enriched life. There's no better time now to achieve a healthy lifestyle. So men, what are you waiting for? Give Dr. Jeffrey Lodge and Cool Springs MD a call today for an appointment. Here's the number, 615-486-3458. That's 615-486-3458. Or visit our website at coolspringsmd.com.
Upgrade our diamond ring this summer with no money down and 0 interest for 5 years. Don't miss this killer offer from Genesis Diamonds. 5 years, 0 interest financing. Not just on engagement rings, earrings, bracelets, bands, colored gemstone jewelry, pre-owned Rolex watches. Buy now, pay nothing down, and spread your payments over 5 years with 0 interest. So that $5,000 gift comes out to just $85 a month. And that luxury pre-owned Rolex Submariner, Datejust, or Explorer starts at only $150 a month. Now through July 1st at Genesis Diamonds, Green Hills and Cool Springs. On approved credit, see store for details.
Does this sound familiar? Did your agent provide excellent entertainment with their TikTok videos and constant social media posts about themselves while completely ignoring that you hired them to sell your home? Did they tell you how wonderful they were? How many followers they had? They probably never sold your home, but hey, they did get 15 likes on their selfies. Hashtag my clients love me. Don't let that happen to you. Google TJ Anderson Homes and see why the only likes we care about are our clients loving our service. Ask us about our prepay with TJ option and how it can save you thousands. TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty. Office number 615-432-2919.
Hey, are you seeking relief? Maybe you just want to enhance your day or night. Did you know there are legal THC products available right here in Tennessee? Yeah, really. You can have legal THC products shipped directly to the comfort of your home. Yes, comfort in cannabis is only a website away. Visit greentreescompany.com. That's Green Trees with a Z, and change your life today.
312 Pizza Company is a proud sponsor of Nashville Sounds Baseball on 102.5 The Game.
Buffalo Bills Center of the West in Cody, Wyoming welcomes you as you enter Yellowstone Park's East Entrance. 5 museums in one and the greatest firearms museum anywhere. Welcome to the West. Buffalo Bills Center of the West, Cody, Wyoming.
They combine hard-hitting journalism.
The Titans asked Kevin Byard to take a pay cut.
Strong-willed opinions.
There's hot takes and then there's like weird takes. Yeah. This is a weird take.
And sometimes some old man takes.
I'm excited about it. So do I gyrate embarrassingly?
To create the perfect morning show, they are Robbie and Rex Road. Mornings from 6 to 9. Presented by TJ Anderson Homes of Benchmark Realty on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app. This is Caroline, Willy, and D-Mase on 102.5 and 106.3 The Game and the Game Nashville app.
Caroline, Willy, D-Mase, 102.5, 106.3 The Game. He's tuned in for Nashville Sounds Baseball tonight at 6:35 p.m. on 94.9 The Fan. The Sounds take on the Norfolk Tides, the AAA affiliate of the Baltimore Orioles. Sounds Baseball on 94.9 The Fan, presented by 312 Pizza Company, Farm Bureau Health Plans, and Family Leisure. I want to get into the craziest thing that I heard yesterday, but first, be caller 4 right now, and you will win a 4-pack of tickets to see Monster Jam World Finals at Nissan Stadium on July 1st. 615-737-1025 is our phone number. Caller 4, good luck with that. Have fun at the Monster Jam World Finals at Nissan Stadium. One of the wildest things I heard yesterday, and it is just perfect, just chef's kiss, free agency time in the NFL. And it was Jeremy Fowler on the Dalvin Cook, DeAndre Hopkins free agency and how those two could potentially overlap. This was Jeremy Fowler on SportsCenter yesterday.
Let's start with New England because we know they have interest in DeAndre Hopkins. You know, I did text with a few teams around the league who said, hey, why wouldn't they be interested in Dalvin Cook too? Because they need premium upgrades at the playmaker spot. They already have Ramondre Stevenson at running back, but Cook is a piece that you can move around. They got about $13 million in cap space. Still in on Hopkins, so maybe they could swing a package deal. Who knows?
I'm sorry. When did we start doing package deals in the NFL? Like, it's not Jason Aldean's on Broadway, 4 to 6 p.m., 2-for-1 draft beers. Like, what? Like, what?
Hey, I mean, I guess Dalvin Cook.
Is he just leeching off of DeAndre Hopkins?
I have not. I can't tell you the last time I seen sort of a package deal. I think the last package deal, and I could be completely right on that. I'm trying to think about it. The last package deal as far as a trade might have been a Herschel Walker thing where they, traded Herschel and got a bunch of stuff back, but that was more so picks, not a package of the players.
When I think of package deals, I'm thinking of like twin brothers that signed for the same school. One guy's not nearly as good as the other, but the coach will take both. They're like, we'll get Jimmy and we'll take Joey.
Exactly.
Joey's not very good, but we'll take Jimmy.
Joey is going to ride the bench, but he's worth it. Yeah, the other guy is worth it.
Yeah, typically you don't see that in the NFL. Now you may see, say like in this case with Samari and I. Samari and I, obviously, we both got released that year along with a bunch of other guys. And it wasn't so much as a package deal that we went to Baltimore, but we ended up going sort of together. I ended up signing first, and he ended up signing like maybe a couple days later, if that. That's not necessarily a package deal, but it's sort of one of those deals where you're getting two guys from the same team in the same year.
Made sense for you to be together.
Made sense. You walk in the locker room, you see a familiar face, whatnot. But it was not like, okay, we're going to sign Samari so we get Derek, or we're going to sign Derek so we get Samari. It was just so happened to work out that way. I haven't seen, since I've been watching the NFL where, you have a situation like this where, okay, we'll sign him because we really want him, and then we'll sign him too and bring him in. The NFL doesn't work like that.
This is what I don't understand is you've got two guys that I would think at their stage of their career, they just got let go because they're not living up to their market value. They were once great players who their teams both have decided they're not worth that anymore. Mm-hmm. Why would you want to compromise your market value by being a package deal? That's how this would happen if you wanted to go that route. I just think this is boredom. There's not much going on. People are conjuring up ideas just to fill time in late June. That's what happens. It's what happens. Yeah. We're so starved to find something to talk about for the league. There's not much going on when you get down to it. And this is a product of that, I think. But like really, I know Dalvin Cook was on a podcast and that was maybe a fun thing to throw out there. It was an entertaining podcast, but if he were to be asked the same question today, like, Dalvin, to make this happen, you might have to take a lot less money to play with DeAndre Hopkins. Teams don't have unlimited budgets here. Mm-hmm. And you guys are at this particular stage of your career. You got to be careful with how we're doing this. Why would you compromise your market value to do that?
This is how I think it probably happened. I don't know how robust the market for Dalvin Cook really is. I mean, he's still relatively young. I mean, he's 27, 28 years old. But I don't think that the market is necessarily starved for an older running back.
Right.
So Dalvin Cook may have looked at it and said, hey, DeAndre, we should – I don't know if they have the same agent. Mm-hmm. Maybe so. Probably said, DeAndre, we should go together. I think that we would be a really good duo, you and I. We should go together. And DeAndre Hopkins is probably saying, yeah, man, for sure. Like, let's totally do that. And then DeAndre Hopkins gets an offer not connected to Dalvin Cook, and he's going to say, see ya. Mm-hmm. I'm going wherever I'm getting the most money.
And Dalvin Cook would probably do the same.
And Dalvin Cook would do the same. Dalvin Cook may just be trying to attach his name to a guy who, although the market is not robust for DeAndre Hopkins either, it's still bigger for DeAndre Hopkins than it is for Dalvin Cook. It'd be Dalvin Cook trying to say, hey, just mooch off D-Hop's
also think
offers.
about Fowler's report. He's talking about the Patriots, right? Who calls the shots for the Patriots? We know who. Bill Belichick. He is not a guy that's going to overpay for some exciting package deal. If he were to do that, it would be I'm getting two guys at discounts. Like that's what he looks for. He looks for exploiting the market with getting guys for, I wouldn't say pennies on the dollar, but a good deal on a veteran. Like that. He's had a lot of great stories like that where he's picked up veteran guys, but those are usually guys that don't cost much or you get for next to nothing. They're not going to both get what they want by going to the Patriots.
Well, I mean, I wonder how, because he said this on a podcast, right?
Yeah, Adam Schefter.
So I wonder how.
Since when is Adam Schefter doing a podcast?
But
anyway?
I wonder how
He's done it for a while.
How does he have time to do this?
I wonder how the
know.
question.
How does he have time?
I don't know. He's always on his phone. I wonder how the question was presented to him that made him answer it the way he answered. Because I just can't see, Dalvin Cook nor, DeAndre Hopkins saying, listen, I want to go with him or he wants to go with me and this is where we're going and it'd be great.
And we'll both take the league minimum.
Exactly. I don't know if that
and
was
we're best
how,
friends.
I think it was more so with, D-Hop's out there. Would you like to play with him? And he was like, yeah, I would love to play with him. Us going, together as, to the same team as free agents, whoever that team is, that would be great to play with a friend of mine, But I don't think he's sitting there saying, listen, we're a package deal, and wherever I go, I want D-Hop to go, and wherever D-Hop goes, I'm going. No.
Right.
You're going where you feel is the better fit and the better money for you. You're worrying about yourself. D-Hop's worrying about himself. If y'all just so happen to land on the same team, that's great. Mm-hmm. But this is not what we're setting out to do. I don't think no player sets out in free agents saying, hey, listen, if y'all gonna take me, y'all gonna sign me, y'all gonna sign my boy too. No.
Who does
exactly.
that?
It's like I need to get a job first.
That's terrible business.
And I put a good word in. Y'all know how good he is, but I put an extra good word in for him. But I need to get in the door first.
It's also a horrible decision to make for two guys who there aren't necessarily teams that are chomping at the bit for either of their services. So you're not going to do that. But Dalvin Cook said on the podcast, if we end up on the same roster, that would be something epic for the NFL. So I think that,
you know what? If I won the lottery, that would be epic for me.
For you and the Downing family. No, you and the Downing family. The Downing family. You can't just say you.
Right, exactly. But we could go on all day on these. Yeah, it's like we could go on all day about if this happened, it would be epic. But it doesn't mean it's going to happen. But that doesn't stop Jeremy Fowler from, who could do it? Oh, the Patriots could do it. Let's do the numbers. Blah, blah, blah. But they're not. That's not going to happen.
Jeremy Fowler sometimes reports some crazy stuff. Like he's reported 17 times that the Titans are shopping Ryan.
I go back to everybody just relax during the off season. It's okay if nothing's happening in the NFL. We don't have to have stories every day. Watch a baseball game. Go to the beach.
Yeah.
Have some fun. Eat a moon pie if that's what you like.
Yeah.
Take a break.
I think
Chill out.
Nothing but Dalvin Cook trying to say, hey, maybe if a GM hears this, he'll say, yeah, they'd be a good pair. Mm-hmm. See, I applaud the effort, Dalvin Cook.
It's an effort.
You're not fooling anybody. That's going to do it for us today. We'll be back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Stillman & Company is up next.
Be love and love on your people. Peace.